Welcome to Malvero Gaming. I hope that you enjoy the upcoming video and that it somehow makes your day a little bit better. We might have some funny moments, we might have some learning moments, but most importantly, we're going to be enjoying fun video games. You're welcome to follow us on Twitch so that you don't miss any of our upcoming live streams that happen every week. Let's get started.
Okay, let me load this up. Perfect. Okay, so I see we got some people here. Rooker, what's your ID in Magic Arena?
Can
you post
Rooker,
that to Discord?
Yeah, I'll post it there. You know I've been doing tournaments too long when I have that memorized.
Right. Right. I think that's let's see here. How about this? Will that work?
Yes, let's be friends.
Let's be friends. Okay, so that's good. Let me switch this over so I can watch chat. And all right. Well, I think that right. All for extra life. It's all for extra life. So we had talked about how let's do like just very simple introductions, and then we'll just go from person to person, and then we'll talk about why we gathered today, just for like chill play. So you're the guest of honor, Rooker. So we're yield the floor to you. Tell us just a little bit, maybe a little bit about yourself, or a little bit about how long you've been in Magic, and you got the floor.
Hi, I'm Rooker. I'd say I'm like an ex-streamer. I used to stream a while ago. I love Magic. I love Artisan, which is a niche format. We might talk about it later, but I think I'm pretty good at the game. I played a lot, and Malvaro reached out to me recently. He was very kind, wanted me as a guest because he wanted Magic right now is doing a cool charity, and so we're here to stream together and have some fun and raise some awareness for Extra Life.
Awesome, awesome. Now, you didn't mention it, but just out of curiosity, how long have you been playing Magic?
Oh, that's right.
Like forever. I've
So,
been playing forever.
my older brother made some decks, and I played with him back then, but I had no idea how the rules worked. He'd kind of tell me, put down your hand, I'll tell you which card you should play. And I had fun with it despite him kind of playing both sides.
Okay. All right.
It was only like 2020 when I actually started playing the game, like myself.
Sure. Okay, well that's great. Lige, he's certainly no stranger to our channel here, but Lige, introduce yourself and a little bit about yourself, and or like when you came into Magic or how you came about it, that type of thing.
Yeah, I'm here. Mal showed me this game like during COVID, and then I got better than him.
That is true. He is a better player than
life.
me.
Red for life.
Right.
And that's all. I'm just a grunt.
Right.
Red. That's all that matters.
And
for the kids.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. And like I said, we're thankful that Rooker and Lige joined us. It's cool that we're able to do that. Introduce myself. I suppose I should do that. My name is Mal, right? And a little bit about myself. I play a lot of different games, but I actually stumbled across Magic years ago. Rooker, what was that PC game by Mike? Was it Microprose? Microprose, and it was with all the original cards way back in the day.
I do not remember the name of that.
But anyhow, like basically all it means is I'm older than dirt, and it's a game that I stumbled on when I was younger, and I played it, and it was intriguing to me, but it didn't really take off. Like in my mind, I was more like, let me play a Call of Duty or a Unreal Tournament or whatever that was the popular game, and it just kind of fell off the scene. And a buddy of mine at work had yapped it up with me for a long time. He's like, Mel, you need to like check out Arena. Like, this is a really cool game. It's free. It's it's online. I actually came on board with Arena when uh, it's it wasn't like the launch date or anything, but it was still pretty early on. There wasn't a lot of sets in the game at that point, and I said, we're sitting in the middle of a pandemic, and we're all locked in our houses, and some of us got really sick, and that's part of why we're meeting today, is to support those that are going through troubling times. But we were stuck in a pandemic, and there was a lot of fear, a lot of hesitation in society, and a friend of mine like invited me to the game and said, "Hey, I know you haven't played in a long, long time, but why don't you try it again?" And he friended me on Arena, and we kicked around some games. I'm like, this is way better than Magic Online. Now, Rooker, you also know that there's another game called Magic Online that was just it was really clunky to play. Did you ever play that version?
Absolutely. Clunky is the right word. I haven't played it, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Now I'm curious, Lige. Did I ever like show you Magic Online? I mean, that was like just a
I've heard
real.
I've heard you talk about it, but no, you never showed me. But
Um,
yeah, you told me it was pretty bad.
yeah, it was not very user friendly, and so that was my last experience. I had played the PC game, and then I tried that, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I'd rather do my taxes than play that. And I put that off to the side. But then when Arena came online, it was like this game was designed to be very user friendly. And so that's where and when I got back into it. And what for me, Rooker before the live stream said, "Well, what's your game? What's your format do you like?" And I love Historic. I get whooped all the time in Historic, but I enjoy it. I am a big fan of homebrew decks, and Rooker mentioned we might be talking about homebrew coming up. But that being said, yeah, I am a big fan of homebrew. I like historic, and what Lige said, burn baby burn red, right? Rooker, do you have a favorite color or a favorite
Ooh.
mechanic that you lean into a lot?
So just looking at my deck list, I think I'm black green mostly. I love
Eh,
Golgari.
Interesting, very good. I'll tell you what, I am all about lifelink death touch. It is black white, and that's probably my favorite combo. But that's kind of introductions, and I just wanted everybody to kind of get an opportunity to hear like from our guests, and we do really appreciate Rooker coming out. I appreciate Lige coming out. You guys obviously have busy schedules and busy lives, and so for you to like make a little bit of time, that's very appreciated. So the question would be, well, why did we gather together today versus any other day? Why didn't we gather yesterday or sometime next week? And the answer to that question is quite simply, Extra Life is a charity that has been in existence for some time, and I'm going to do my very best to give them due justice in my explanation. But it's a charity that I came across a while ago, and sometimes you see Extra Life cycling through in the stores of Arena, and it's like, oh, what's this? This is kind of curious. And basically, Wizards of the Coast has partnered with, you know, Extra Life, who they in turn are partnered with the Children's Hospital Network. And so let me just put a graphic up there real quick and see if we can put something up on Twitch. In terms of the people that are on TikTok, just know that this Extra Life is partnered with the Children's Network, and they support over 170 hospitals. Um, they've raised the Extra Life charity has raised over $120 million, and so that's a lot of resources that have been so justly given, to families that are in need. They've been in existence since 2008. They became a partner affiliate like a few years later, and we're partnering today with Magic the Gathering. That's one of the groups. Before the live stream, Rooker, I went online to Extra Life, and they have like teams, and they've raised already over $750,000 already for Extra Life this year. Now that's not Wizards of the Coast. That's just Magic the Gathering. So I assume they had the friendly banter to try to raise more money between the two of them. And so we're really happy to be a part of this particular, charity. If you have a kid that, is facing a dire place in life, you need a support system that will help you not only like mentally but physically. And these children hospitals are top notch, and to show support for those that are in need, that's an ethical, moral decision in life. And so that's the reason why we're gathered here today. But that being said, through the live stream, we'll bring more attention. We'll bring up some facts, and we'll cycle through, and we're just bringing awareness. None of us are rich, so I wish I could just donate $1 million, but I don't have $1 million to donate. But we can do and bring awareness to Extra Life and to the charity hospitals, that these children are receiving care from. Lige, I was doing a donation myself, which again, person, that's between you and your choice if people want to support that financially beyond awareness. But I was looking at the website, and I was logging in and doing all this stuff, and the interesting feature is I was unaware that you can select a local hospital. So if you're near a certain children's hospital in your local area, you can go to Extra Life and put in your zip code, and it's going to do a zip code search. And it's very possible that if your hospital is associated with the Children's Network in some way, you can actually route your entire Extra Life donation right to that local hospital that you have friends and family, or someone who's been there. And when I was going through, I noticed that USA Health in Mobile, Alabama was a part of the Extra Life charity, one of the hospitals listed. And I was like, wait, I know that place. Why have I heard of that? Rooker, you ever had that where you have a memory and you're like, where do I remember that from? And I was trying to think, well, why does this seem familiar to me? And I knew like the Mobile area, but I was like, did we have family that went there? And of course, not everybody who goes to a children's hospital has, dire medical need, but many of them do. And some of them are just, like infant hospitals where, children are delivered, and that's one side of the children's hospital. And I texted my mom. I'm like, hey, didn't we have like family members that were at this hospital? And one of my nieces and one of my nephews was actually born at Providence, which is the hospital there at USA Health in Mobile, Alabama. So although they were just, being delivered as an infant into this world, it's interesting that, the hospital provided care not only for, children who had really advanced sicknesses, but also just for general care as well. And so that being said, that's kind of the really long introduction, but I think it's one that is worthy, most certainly. And so Extra Life is something that we'll kind of mention as we go on with the evening. But that being said, Rooker, you are our guest of honor. What would you like to start with in terms of discussion?
I'm going to add a tiny little thing.
Sure.
I just want to mention, for those watching this on YouTube, hi. But Extra Life, unless something crazy happens, it's not like a right now thing. It is something that you can donate to. Just look it up right now. It is, I'm almost certain, still a charity that is in effect. So even if you're not watching this live, you still have the chance to help out with this.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
No. Go ahead. Carry
I
on.
was just gonna say, for the first thing that we're gonna go into, I think we should talk about Foundations coming out. It's kind of a fun time capsule. Like this is an interesting moment in Magic. Some big changes are happening, and so I think we should talk about that and see how we feel. Make some
Yeah,
predictions for the future.
absolutely. So I guess the first thing that Lige brought to my attention, he's like, "Hey man, this is gonna be like Rockstar crazy. This is gonna change the game potentially." And I'm like, "Well, how is this different than any set?" And from my understanding, Foundations is unique because normally rotation and Rooker, describe what rotation means. Like when you talk about, oh, we're talking about standard player or rotation. What is rotation normally?
Okay, so to keep the game fresh, at least standard, you are only allowed to play with decks printed since 2 or 3 years ago. So, and they don't like it's not like exactly 2 or 3 years ago. So once every year, they do what we call a rotation, where some of the sets that are legal in standard are no longer legal in standard, and they get, we say, rotated out.
But the unique thing about this, about Foundations, is Magic is like, hey, you know what? I know they got used to this standard rotation thing, but let's throw them a curveball. And that's what Lige was saying, is like, this is going to impact the game because it's not what Rooker just said, a 3-year bucket of cards, right, that we're playing with. What's different, Rooker, with Foundations compared to the normal set in terms of aging?
This set is designed to be the foundation of standard. There will be the cards that are in this set will never rotate. So they actually did say we might, if things go horribly wrong, have to rotate some of the cards in like 2030 or something. I don't remember what it was. But they said, I think it might be 2028. But their goal, assuming that nothing goes horribly wrong and they missed some dumb combo or something, these cards will be playable forever, which is perfect for people who are more casually into Magic, sort of like Mal. They can make a fun deck that's mostly made of cards from Foundation, and if they come back to the game in 5-10 years, their deck will still be an okay deck to play because most of the cards, or even all the cards if you build your deck that way, will be legal in standard forever.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really exciting. I'm extremely interested in seeing if there are any decks that are primarily Foundations. So like
Sure.
a lot of the cards in Foundations will help decks that already exist in standard, but
Right.
once those decks mostly rotate out, those decks will be done.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm most curious about decks primarily built around Foundations, because if you find a good one, you can play it literally assuming that nothing goes horribly wrong forever.
Right, right. And now, one article I read early on that talked about Foundation is that it was almost like an olive branch to the idea that there's always new players that are coming to the game. And so, like what Rooker said, it's meant to be like a foundation, like just like you were building a house, you'd have a foundation, but then once you have that foundation, like you got something you can build on, like that's gonna be able to support whatever you can think of, right? And Lige, I'm kind of curious from your perspective, Foundations, when you heard about it coming out and that it would last. Rooker, I think, mentioned 2030 is like a number like way off in the distance. But how did you feel when you're like, hey, I buy a normal set and it's only going to be 3 years, but when I invest in this could be special. What was your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, you're getting. I mean, core cars aren't going to rotate. I mean, with standard format, all the other sets after this one, you know, they're going to have that ability, right? You're going to have your different effects and stuff, but getting and finishing all the cards in this set matter more than the other ones because they're going to last.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's important because how many times have we played a game and then all of a sudden like, oh, this card's gonna rotate out, then all of a sudden my favorite deck like ages out, right? And truly, it can happen that way. But if you have something that survives the rotation a little bit better, it's something that really is helpful, because you're getting more long-term value. Your decks can survive that rotation, and hey, if you're playing arena, you sometimes spend wild cards to be able to move forward in deck building, and then now if I invest in building this deck with these foundation cards, this is going to be a deck that's not going to have pieces that are aging out. It's going to survive standard for a lot longer, and so you'll be able to once you adopt certain decks that are ones that you enjoy, that they have more lasting value, which is a great point. Was there any? How do you think this is going to change meta, Rooker? Do you think that this is going to be like, it's just a matter of the biggest change here is just time, right? It's just an extra 2 years, or do you feel that it's going to actually change meta design, like the type of decks that surface as your tournament style decks? What's your thoughts on that matter?
So I think this will make sure that the meta always has a good balance. You're never going to have a situation where aggro decks have absolutely nothing going for them.
Gotcha.
I believe there's a Wrath in the set, which is a card that destroys all creatures, which means control decks will always at least have that. I think the biggest thing that it will change is actually future sets. I believe future sets, Wizards of the Coast constantly is printing cards like Duress into sets. They're not very important in limited. They're not very exciting for standard. It's a card that there's just always in standard. So it's taking up a slot in these sets. And so the sets have a lot of cards that kind of feel like fluff because they're just filling out the archetypes that needs to always be in standard. Having this means that all the basic archetypes are not going to be clogging up most of the sets. So I anticipate seeing a little bit more interesting design in the future.
Okay, that's good. Do you think that, and I know I don't like to use terms that people don't really know a lot, but there's I believe the term is, it's a jank deck. It's just kind of quirky or quirky. I think sometimes people say, it's a quirky deck. Do you think that this could birth a more unique pool of really just unique radical design meta decks in addition, or do you think there'll be some but not as many as one may anticipate?
There will be at least one jank deck that I am super excited for.
Now, before live stream, you were actually talking about something that your Discord community is fiddling with. Now, just also for the viewer, Rooker is very humble, and he said, I haven't been doing as much live streaming recently, which, that so be it. But I do know that Rooker is involved in a Magic Discord. So could you tell us maybe a little bit about how to get to that Discord, what their focus is, what their vision is, and maybe a little bit about that thing that you were kind of humored by before the live stream started on that particular mechanic?
Actually, that was not from Foundations.
Oh, my apologies. My apologies. I was mistaken. But do tell about the Discord and give someone that's maybe listening to us on YouTube in the future, point them to your Discord as a resource.
Yeah. The Artisan Discord, there's a couple of them out there. I'll post a link in the chat for it. If anyone wants it in chat, just let me know and I'll at you. I'm in Mal's chat right now, so But also, if you're watching this on YouTube, check the links. I'll make sure there's links there. But pretty much these discords are places where a lot of people are constantly brewing, coming up with good ideas. There's and a fair amount of bad ideas. There's some people who like to play artisan decks on ladder against non-artisan decks. We also run tournaments. As Malvaro said, I love supporting this format. I personally, I will play other tournaments and I'll get prizes for gem codes, which you can use in game to like buy cards and stuff. And so I get these gem codes and I will immediately turn around and for the next artisan tournament, put those gem codes up as prizes because I just love the format and think more people should get the chance to enjoy it.
Now I'm just gonna stop just for a second. I saw Walsman on TikTok stopped it. And he's like, "Hey, what's happening?" And so, hello, Walsman. Rooker Walsman is he's someone that's been visited many times to our live streams. He's a fun player in Arena, and so I'm sure he's like, "Well, what is this? No one told me that this is coming up," and so I think it's a pleasant surprise for some of our community. But yeah, that's cool. So now, one thing you didn't mention is how long has Magic Artisans been in existence? Is this like a new Discord, or have you guys been around for quite some time now? Is it like a pre-pandemic Discord?
When did Arena when did Arena first come out? I'm trying to remember.
Oh, you know what? Let me bring the power of Google. Magic Arena Wiki. Let me see. Okay, it says that it started in 2017. 2017.
Okay.
So
very early on, Artisan showed up, and what Artisan is it's you're only allowed to play with common and uncommon cards, as opposed to rare and mythic rares.
Right.
And so very early on, when Arena started, they ran a small, like, one-day, hey, if you want, we're going to play, they called it like a midweek Magic sort of thing, and it's just like a fun format for a day that you can play.
Sure.
And someone started a Discord, and pretty much ever since then, the Discord has been running tournaments and cute little weekly ladder sort of things. Lots of people having fun brewing, people doing it for budget reasons.
Right.
And because there's a wild card system where you can like craft any card, if you're familiar with Hearthstone, it's like the dust system a little bit. A lot of people pretty much have the capability to create any artisan deck that they want without spending any resources that they care about. So it's like the hyper budget format for people who love to brew but don't have the capability to brew expensive decks constantly.
Right. Now, I will say this. You know, obviously Arena is a baseline free to play. Now, Lige, you know, we were talking and you were commenting that you know, you felt that some of the decks in the shop actually showcased, greed is the wrong word, but what was it? Like pay to win. Could you elaborate on like the idea of it? Does Arena have the ability of you going in and just saying, "Hey, I want to buy a deck, a prefab that can roll," and then
so
go ahead.
You definitely can try and net deck, which is the common thing for looking up on the web. Good deck, and you can try and like buy a good deck. You will not win. You will struggle without skill behind it.
Yes.
The way Magic works, it's unlike any other card game in that the rules of the game, there are like cards that just straight up change the rules of the game in very unique and interesting ways. There are some decks that never cast a single spell because their whole strategy is to discard to hand size. Like they draw cards and then they're naturally at the start of their turn, and then they just discard because there's a maximum hand size of 7. And by putting stuff into their graveyard, they somehow try to win the game.
Right.
It's way more synergistic than any other game, which means there's a lot more skill expression, and budget decks can be shockingly good and like break the format in ways that people did not expect.
Right. Now, I had a comment in TikTok chat by Walsman. He said, "Hey, this Artisan is very similar to Pauper. It's a format called Pauper." Now, Lige, do you remember what Pauper is? What the deal with Pauper was again? I think it was all commons, wasn't it? I think it was all commons.
Absolutely.
Yeah, all commons. And so basically, Artisan is one click up, right? So now I can use commons and uncommons.
I will say, despite having a similar premise, they are extremely different. Pauper
Right,
is built since the beginning of Magic.
right.
And if you look at very early Magic design,
Mhm.
it's kind of inconsistent. You have cards like Dark Ritual at common.
Yes.
So, just pay 1 mana to get 3 mana in a card, which is
Right.
broken, to say the least.
Mhm.
So you get all these weird broken cards, but then almost no payoffs for them in Pauper. So it's like a really weird format where you have extremely broken cards and you're like, I'm gonna on turn 1 have 7 mana and use it to cast a 6/6 trample.
Really.
That's like the feeling that Pauper has.
That's an impending.
Artisan?
If you have to face that, you're like, oh no, that's not what I'm hoping for. And yeah, that would be daunting, I'd imagine. Yeah.
It's a very weird format, Pauper. Artisan, I would say, is it. First of all, it's only cards that are on Arena, so much more modern design.
Right.
And in modern design, Wizards of the Coast has been designing sets for limited. Limited being a format where you just open a pack and you have to use the cards that you are given.
Sure.
So the modern design has uncommon cards are almost entirely designed to be build arounds. So like your deck is built to make your uncommons as powerful as possible. And they're extremely synergy based.
Right.
And so there's like not it's a similar power. Like cards aren't as powerful as in Pauper, but they are way more synergistic.
Okay, that makes sense.
A lot more consistency. For example, you will not find there's like 2 exceptions, but there are no wraths or there are no cards that say deal damage to every creature that do
Right.
more than 2 damage.
Mm-hmm.
So like that's like a consistent benchmark. There's a lot more consistency if you go to Artisans. There's a lot more synergy, a lot more consistency, and it ends up feeling like a totally unique experience. It's so cool.
Absolutely. Now, Lige, in terms of some of the game plan that you've seen recently, what is there any questions that you have or observations you have about this type of format that you want to bring up at this point, or just an opportunity, open floor type thing?
I mean, for how long this game has been out, it's kind of surprising they don't, add it to Arena, especially with like all the other community-made modes and stuff.
Preach.
Right.
Like I think it's, I mean, if people don't play it, they don't have to. I mean, they might as well add it for the people who want to.
Uh-huh.
I mean, there's
So,
plenty of different.
do you think that it's just certainly, like, Wizards of the Coast has to be aware of the format? Do you think that it's just a matter of until they see it as a stronger emerging format, they don't want to just put like the development time into it, or do you think there's another obstacle to why it hasn't? I mean, because they've added format styles into this game. Is there any speculation or any chatter from the community that?
So 2 answers. First, the format is incredibly cheap. I've mentioned that.
Right.
And I legitimately think they will not support it as a format much
This is not as much profit.
because people would enjoy it and they'd be able to play it for free and pretty much play all the meta decks whenever they want.
Right.
The second answer is there's an awkward disconnect between the Wizards of the Coast and Magic the Gathering Arena. Like, it feels like there's mixed messages between the two, and I think the developers of Magic Arena are a little bit understaffed and trying their best, and they're doing an amazing job.
Sure.
But I do not think they're spending much time looking at the community made formats, and they're just working to make sure the game is as clean and there's Magic is a complicated game, and
Sure.
so them keeping the client running, I think, is already taking all their resources.
I got you. That makes sense. That makes sense. Well, that's good. So we've already talked a little bit about Artisan. We've talked a little bit about the Discord that Rooker is associated with. You mentioned that Discord hosts tournaments. Is that something that your average person can like join into the Discord, and then is there like different regions? Like, I mean, is it like Southeast and then the Midwest and West Coast? How do they break out their tournaments?
Weirdly enough, there's a massive Italian Artisan like following.
Really?
It's
Huh?
mostly Italians, it feels like.
Really?
So what ends up happening is because we have a huge base in both the United States and Italy, and there's some random people from Australia and such,
Right.
our tournaments are designed to be very convenient for everyone.
Got it.
Most common format that we do is tournament. So like you kind of just get paired with someone each round,
Mm-hmm.
and then you are given the Discord info of the person you're supposed to play against, and they say you've got 48 hours to find a time you can both play and play your round.
Interesting. Okay, that's cool.
So, sometimes it does mean, because you'll get paired against someone from Italy, it's like, all right, I guess I'm waking up an hour earlier than I anticipated to play a game, but usually it's pretty easy to fit it into your schedule.
Have you found that the Discord is like accommodating? Is there like a language barrier, or is it like still enough common language that like you can muscle through and coordinate your times, and it's not like a big obstacle to play?
Google Translate usually works. Most people speak English in the Discord, largely because most people in the Discord already do.
Right. Gotcha.
So there's some really funny moments where you accidentally offend someone because Google Translate handled it wrong, and then you both realize that it was just a total miscommunication, and you both
Sure.
laugh over it.
Sure. I gotcha.
I've had that happen like twice, and it was honestly, I'm actually like closer friends to the people who that's happened to me with, because I'm like, that was a funny experience we shared.
Sure, absolutely. Well, that's cool, and it's I think it's good that there's like a bridge between the arena community and Discord, where people can discuss ideas and deck builds, and actually before live stream, I think we had talked about the possibility of maybe Rooker can give us like a kind of an idea of like the difference between homebrew and net deck considerations for like something for this stream, with like a theme like the extra life idea. And I mean, is that something that you think we could muscle through? If I think I can click on the right buttons to do that. Let me see if I can click on something here. I think we can do that.
So actually, oh wait.
Or do you want?
I'm actually watching. I'm watching you. So
fair
on
enough.
your.
Okay. So you're good then. Okay, all right, that's fine. Let me do this. Okay.
So yeah, for those who are potentially new to Magic or just want to feel like they can make their own decks better, we're going to try and build a deck together.
Okay, fair enough.
And
all right.
In theme, we are getting ready for Extra Life. So we're going to try and build a historic deck about clerics.
Got it.
So the first thing you should think when you start building a deck is, why am I building around this theme? Or another common thing is the juice worth the squeeze? So like, if we try to build a deck around clerics, there better be a good reason that we're playing around clerics. So after we first type in, so we're going to look up cleric in the search bar and see if there's anything useful.
Let me see
a reason to play.
Do you want me to build with what I got, or do you want me to like bring in like not collected so you can see everything, and then I can wild card it out? What would you prefer? We'll do it this way so you can see everything.
Look at not collected, in case that's important.
Okay.
Decide if it's worth the while.
Well, you can at
card.
least tech deck. You can just tech deck it. I mean, you don't even have to
That's
full on
true.
craft.
That's true. So, all right, now, Lige, there's in deck building, there's a mana curve, and like in layman's term, what are some mana considerations in terms of the price of cards to play them? Anything that comes to mind regarding like your mana curve early on versus late game? And then Rooker, he's going to come in just a second too. But is there anything that we should be like considering in terms of like mana curve?
Well, it's realistically depending on the whatever deck you're building.
Yeah. So in terms of land, what is it? Pretty much like 24 is a baseline, isn't it? Like 24. I think it's still a baseline. And then depending on your mana curve, if your average mana cost is lower, you could maybe squeak down to like 22, 23, like especially if you're running red, right? You could maybe get down a lot lower. But depending on how mid-range your mana curve is, and we'll show that to the viewers in just a minute, but generally you'd probably want to start a baseline of like 24 lands, and then Rooker carry on with your cleric idea. What's the engine? Like some would say there's a synergy, right, or a win condition that we're driving towards. What do we want to do here?
So I think when I start building a deck, there are two important things. I need to come up with like what's my overall archetype? Am I trying to go under my opponent, kill them before their game plan is online? Am I trying to build a value engine so that as the game goes on, I just slowly generate an unstoppable force? Am I just entirely built around disrupting my opponent? So I keep track of that, and I'm trying to keep track of whether I want to like what sort of cards do I want to build around that have super strong synergy. So as we look at that first thing, super strong synergy, let's like click on any cards that like add one copy of a card to our deck if we think it's just a strong cleric in general.
Oh, okay.
And
Maybe not
then
that
let's
one.
keep an eye out for clerics that are build aroundable.
Okay.
Let's just start looking through them and see what we can find.
Just stop me and Lige if you see something that might be of interest.
Guide of Souls, I'm pretty sure is strong.
Okay,
that one we should probably just like add one copy to the deck just so we remember it's there.
Okay, where are we now? Guide of Souls. Okay, right. Okay.
And we'll keep scrolling through until we find more good things.
Okay, let's keep on scrolling. Oh, this is an evil card right there. Soul Warden. I've seen that in a lot of decks.
Actually, I may need you to stream to Discord.
Oh, very good. I can do that. Let me do that.
My phone is.
It is cool. It is cool. We're gonna share
Sorry
that now.
about that.
No, don't worry about it. Don't worry about that. Let's see if that's if that can accommodate Rooker a little bit easier.
Yeah. Soul Warden's definitely strong. Speaker of the Heavens, very strong.
Okay.
Keep scrolling through.
Okay. Right. Oh, yep. Leg. Let me go. Okay, there we go. Yep. Carry on.
I guess Angel of Unity, if you look at it, it says whenever you cast a party spell, which includes clerics, a card in your hand will get +1/+1. We might as well grab that because it is a payoff for clerics. That's like a reason to play clerics.
Hope you're having a great day. Okay, very good. Very good. Yes.
Nothing else screaming. Okay, let's keep going.
Yep. Oh, Hallowed Knight I've seen many, many times before.
Hallowed Priest, everyone gets that card for free when they first download Arena. Essence Channeler is honestly a strictly better version of it. We might want to look at it.
Okay.
You know, whenever we gain life, hey, we're doing an extra life stream.
Right.
But you put a +1/+1 counter on it.
Yeah. Okay.
And then even if it dies, it moves those over to something else. That's super good.
That is handy.
Okay.
Definitely. Okay.
Keep going. Luminarch Aspirant. That's just a generically good card almost in any deck.
Yeah, absolutely.
Slowly growing the team. Nothing else looking great there.
Okay.
Nothing's... I guess Sigardian Evangel is okay, but probably nothing from this page.
Okay. I'm going to stop for a second. I remember when I first began to interact with the Magic TikTok community, they're like, show a card that most represents you in real life. And I'm like, Professor, because I teach classes like outside of work and stuff like that. And so this card, unrelated to this particular deck build, the Professor, that's the most reflection of me in real life. Is I love to help people learn new things. And so I actually just finished classes. I graded the last final and handed it back to the student with a smile. And so in real life, this card most represents me in real life. Carry on.
That's something we have in common. I myself am studying to become... I'm getting my teaching license. I'm studying to get my credentials.
Excellent. Yeah, very good. All right, so you said next page, yeah? Okay, very good.
Yeah. Voice of the Blessed is a broken card.
Okay,
We might as well consider it.
Voice of the Blessed, we can do that, okay.
Similar card to Essence Channeler. Keep going.
Okay.
And part of this is just that I've played this game way too much. I recognize like every one of these cards, which is maybe not a good thing. Anointed Peacekeeper.
Anointed Peacekeeper. Okay, very good.
That's an interesting one, but we'll keep going. Right. And Elite Spellbinder. Oh man, I love that card.
Oh goodness. All right.
So this card is actually based off of a real person. They won a tournament.
Okay.
You'll see in the quotes, Paulo Vito Damo da Rosa. He was the world champion of the 26th Magic World Championship. And so they made a card for him.
Wait. Was this the one where players could do the hedge bet? And if they won, they got the little avatar?
No. Actually, this is just a consistent thing. For the big world tournament, they make a card.
No, you know what I'm talking about, though, right? You know what I'm talking about. Like, you had the opportunity as a player to pick who you thought was going to win the tourney. And you got, like, an in-game, like, card.
Oh, yes.
I think I had this.
I remember that.
I'm going to actually stop just for 1 second. I think... Was it this one?
Yeah. And you won because
so
you were rooting for Paulo?
We picked him. Yeah. yeah. No, but carry on. Yeah, I picked it. Well, just as a side point, I'm like, I know that name. No, I've obviously never met them in real life, but I was like, I know that name. And I remember at work, I'm like, I talked to my buddy who was big into Magic. I'm like, hey, like, I don't know any of these people. That's like me picking college football game winners, right? I'm like, well, who's... And he's like, oh, yeah, this guy, he's like a really good, like, tourney player. And I'm like, okay, well, let me click the button. And I went home and clicked the button, and he took it home. I believe he was an underdog. He'd won before, but he actually pulled out a win that I think was unexpected and took the win home.
Yeah, I remember when I was trying to pick who to root for, I'm like, Paulo's good, but his deck does not look well positioned. It looks like he's going to lose to a lot of these other decks, but he somehow won.
But like you said, it's not just a matter of buying some cards and showing up. You got to be able to pilot it well. You need a flare of luck. But if you got a flare of luck and you can pilot that deck, anybody can beat anybody on any given day, theoretically, of course. You know, unless they got like anti-cards, you know, for that particular deck. But
it's surprising. A lot of people say that Magic is a lot of luck, but then you see the same people consistently winning the tournament.
Right. Okay. All right. So that I kind of got us off track, but carry on. Carry on.
No worries. Let's keep going. We're now getting in the historic format. Unless we're trying to play like a control deck, 4 cards that cost 4 are about going to be the top of our deck. 4 or maybe even 5.
Okay.
So let's keep going, but let's probably move faster once we reach 4 and 5.
Gotcha.
There's a lot of okay stuff, but I don't think we'd want any of those. I guess Sanguine Evangelist is interesting, but
Okay, Sanguine.
yeah, let's grab that one just in case.
All
We
right,
build
just in
decks
case.
that might want it,
Sure.
so that we can glance at it later.
Mhm.
These are all garbage. And, ooh, Inquisitor Captain. I didn't realize that was a cleric. That's an interesting one. Let's grab that.
Okay, very good.
That's a very interesting one. Okay, let's keep going. Ooh. Angel of Destiny is famous. We might as well add it.
Very good. He's like, he doesn't have any of those other cards. So let's bring some mythic in. Very good. Very
Okay.
good.
And I think we just keep going until we reach... Oh, shoot. I'm going to say right now we want only white and black.
Very good. We go white, black. Very good.
We're going to have to scroll for a little bit.
Yep, we're
Get
doing
all
that
the
now.
white clerks.
Yep. Okay.
Okay. Good black ones. Nothing there.
Okay.
Priest
What's
of
up,
Forgotten
Painter?
Gods is
Hope you're having a great day.
interesting.
All right, I'm sorry. Carry on. Which one?
No, Priest of Forgotten Gods. This one's very unique.
Mhm.
It would be a very different deck than what I'm expecting,
Okay.
but it's solid.
Mhm.
Sanguine Soothsayer, if we're going into a bunch of life gain, Sanguine Soothsayer would be perfect.
Okay.
Going. Starscape Cleric is solid. If we want to just gain a bunch of life, let's grab that one.
Okay. All right. Hold on a second here. What did you say it was? Okay, this one. Yep, I got it. Okay.
Yeah. That one's an uncommon, so it's pretty much free to grab.
Right.
I think that should be it for that page. Preacher of the Schism is a very strong card.
I actually have played that a time or two in a different deck. Yep.
Okay, now on this page, we see 2 different cards that are build arounds. Alright, Taborax, in the bottom center. It says, whenever another non-token creature you control dies, put a +1/+1 counter on this. If it's a cleric, you may draw a card. So this is a reason to play clerics. So we for sure want to at least consider it. Like,
No.
do we just want to go wide, have a bunch of clerics to pump this guy up and draw a bunch of cards? Might be worth it.
Now,
The other one.
Now, one thing I'm going to bring up here as just an interjection of a point is, you usually have like a card engine that's going to be driving for your wins, but to have a card that can be a card engine, if a certain criteria is met, you get a card. That is really good to keep things moving along. So this right here, a part of what he does, the very end of his flavor text, is if that creature is a cleric, guess what? You get to draw a card, and now you got card engine that helps you keep it moving. You don't stall out and start top decking. So this has like tremendous value, as Rooker was saying.
Yeah. The other thing to consider here is veto. If we want to go really hard into life gain, whenever we gain life, an opponent loses that much life, that's a really good line of text.
Okay.
All right, next one. None of those are good. Yawgmoth's good, but not really for a cleric deck. He's a combo card. I think that should be it for black.
Yeah, so now we're getting to the point where we've we're way. What about dual cards? We got any dual card
Dual
options?
colored.
Yeah.
Look at this Cleric of Life spawned. Whenever another cleric you control enters, gain a life.
Oh, just
That's a payoff.
Just stop it. Do you want more? You want like 2 copies?
I think we might want all 4 if we're going to build a cleric
I think we're gonna
deck.
go 4. Okay, very good. It's a great
Yeah.
price point.
Yep, and it's an uncommon, so easy to build around if you're not have any.
Absolutely.
Next page, probably. And okay, as far as just generically strong clerics go, we've got Darkstar Banisher.
Okay.
And then we've got Silver Quill Silencer. That one's not really that strong, though. We probably don't want that. Never mind.
Oh, you don't want this silencer?
Probably not.
Okay,
Yeah.
let me move this over here. Okay.
I have one. I have one.
Oh, no, I don't want that. Nope, back it up. That was a 2.
I have one card that might be wanted.
What card?
The Hallowed Priest.
Wait, keep going 1 second. One more.
Okay.
Let's scroll one more before we finish.
Okay.
Well, let's finish the clerics and then look at that.
Come on
because,
now.
Yes, I'll probably
I'm sorry,
agree.
I'm slow. What can I say? I'm not quick with the keyboard and mouse. Okay, what else? What else we got here?
Okay. Zoraline is a very strong card if we go heavy into bats.
Mhm.
And then Aura. Look at what Aura says.
Aura. Yeah. Okay.
O-R-A-H.
Yep. Oh, please. Are you serious? If it
That
dies, bring
is a
something back. Oh, you got... Now, is the proper term grave recursion, or is it like another...
Yeah.
The formal... Okay, so it is grave recursion. Okay, so we're bringing stuff back. Okay, we're bringing the clerics back. Okay.
Okay. So, looking at this, and some of the cards that we've grabbed, I'm noticing kind of 3 different themes, and we're going to have to decide which one we want.
Okay.
So first, I see sort of a mid-range, what we call tempo deck.
Okay.
We're going to be... So if you look at Elite Spellbinder, for example...
So I want to search
when we... no, it's already in the deck.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay.
We look at Elite Spellbinder. It says, when you play this, look at your opponent's hand, make a spell cost more mana.
Okay.
So this sort of card, we can play cards like this and disrupt our opponent while playing a bunch of creatures to kill our opponent. Anointed Peacekeeper has a similar line of text right above Elite Spellbinder.
Oh, very good.
Where it says, when it enters, you can see your opponent's hand and name a card. It now costs more to cast. So that's like one build of clerics we could do, where it's like this weird tempo disrupt your opponent.
Mm-hmm.
I'm noticing a big life gain theme. A bunch of cards that say whenever you gain life, do something, and then whenever a creature enters, gain life.
Sure.
So we could just have a deck built around gaining 1 life over and over again.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And the third thing that I'm seeing is a weird sacrifice deck. We've got Aura that makes it so that when a cleric dies, we get another cleric back.
Right.
We've got Priest of Forgotten Gods, which we can use to sacrifice things for value. We've got a lot of interesting... and then there's another one. Which one was the other sacrifice card? Dvorax. Dvorax draws a card whenever we sacrifice something.
Right. Now,
and then another card that wasn't put in there, there was the Sadistic Pilgrim, which was a white-black cleric. 2 mana.
Oh yeah, Ellisal Core.
And when you lose a creature, the opponent loses a life.
Oh, that would fit in well with the sacrifice version. Or even the life version.
And then the Hallowed Priest is also...
Now, I'm gonna
that
stop,
one gains
I'm gonna
one
stop
on
with a
for
question. Now, Rooker explained like 3 possible themes, right? Now, there is one consideration a person has to make when they're doing deck building, and that is the idea of fine-tuning versus spreading your theme, and you actually dilute your efficiency on your themes. So you mentioned 3 possibilities. In the name of efficiency, do we want to focus more on tuning the deck to achieve, like, say, 1 or 2 of the objectives? Or is there enough synergy available between the cards that, no, we really don't have to worry about diluting anything. With this kind of deck, we can still roll with it and it should be fine. Like, how do you process that when you're, like, building a deck, whether it be homebrew or you're modifying maybe something you have? How do you balance the need to fine-tune to be really good at that engine theme versus... I can branch out and now maybe I have 2 win conditions or 3 win conditions. How does the newer player make that choice?
The biggest thing I would ask myself is how disruptible is my plan? So, for example, with a sacrifice deck,
Right.
it's really annoying to try and disrupt a sacrifice deck because you'll try and remove their important stuff and they'll just sacrifice it for value. So, like,
Right.
if we just did sacrifice, since it's very hard to deal with,
Mm-hmm.
we should probably just fine tune towards that because even if our opponent has a deck that's good against sacrifice, it's a pretty resilient strategy. On
Okay.
the other hand, if we went heavy into the or I guess the tempo game plan has a similar thing where it sort of protects itself.
Sure.
And like you kind of want to lean into it and have yourself constantly taxing your opponent and till they're dead.
Right.
The life gain strategy, I think, is also strong enough and like powerful. I think in this case it's redundant enough. We have like a gazillion ways to gain life and a gazillion payoffs. But if there were only a couple ways to gain life and only a couple payoffs, I would lean into trying to do 2 strategies at once. But in this case, I think all 3 of them are hard enough to deal with on their own, and there's not like a clear one easy way to counter them, that I think it's okay to focus on only one regardless of which we choose.
Okay, that's good to know. That's good to know. So now one thing, there have been times where I'm building a deck and I factor the balance between, okay, I have cards that are castable and they are like instant speed, they're quick speed, or they're sorcery and they're a little bit slower, and then I have this creature spell mix, and how does one determine, okay, I have really creature heavy, they call it creature heavy or creature light, how do you determine the balance between your creature count versus, okay, I need to have an instant that can like shred a potential danger. In some cases, people who are learning the game, they ascribe to bread, right? And maybe we'll talk about that in just a moment. But is this like a very creature heavy, and I'm relying on all of the flavor text from these creatures to do the job, versus I'm gonna have a few extra spells on the side that are gonna do certain things? What is your take on that?
More important than instant speed, so cards you can play on your opponent's turn versus sorcery speed, stuff you can only play on your own turn.
Mm-hmm.
And more important than spells versus creatures
Mm-hmm.
is the amount of interaction you should run, like interaction, stuff that disrupts your opponent, whether it's removal spells, counter spells, discard spells, should be inversely proportional to how broken what you're doing is. So if you're a combo deck, you're entirely built around like doing something that will deal infinite damage,
Right.
you should be running almost no interaction. Because who cares what your opponent's doing? You're doing something bigger than them. If you can go over the top of them, you don't need to stop them.
Right.
In this case, looking at our deck,
Mm-hmm.
our deck isn't doing something insanely broken any of the builds. So I would say like we need we're going to build really big creatures if we go the life gain route, which is pretty broken. The sacrifice version isn't really doing anything broken. It's just dirtling around, getting value.
Right.
The tempo version isn't doing anything broken. So I would say we want a fair amount of interaction, unless we do the life gain thing, in which case we'll probably only need a little bit of interaction to feel good.
Right. Right.
Yeah, it depends on how broken what you're doing is.
Very good. Very good. That's a good explanation for people that are trying to figure out decks. How do I build something? How do I make this decision? And what Rooker is talking about is something that definitely every person has to factor in. I personally think that some players, especially that are newer to the game, there's almost, I won't say fear is the wrong word, but it's almost like, hey, I've never done this before. Do I know enough about the game to make something that can, not only be fun, but something that can also, be successful against a variety of different types of decks, and I think that that's good. A good consideration as well. So carry on. Very good.
Yeah, if I were to go back to making YouTube videos, what I want to do most is make a series on helping people who are completely new to the game understand how to brew a deck. Stuff like what we're doing right now.
Right.
Okay, so we've got 3 possibilities. Do you want to try and build a sacrifice clerics deck, a life gain 1 life over and over clerics deck, or a tempo clerics deck?
I will yield to Lige's choice. What sounds most intriguing, Lige?
I don't think it's that. I think it's the group decision here. But I mean, you have I entered a couple cards into Discord, but the Hallowed Priest, if you look at that card, that would insanely help with the life gain route if we were going that direction.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which, whenever you gain life, that's your ramp card, you know. I also put Patchwork Banner because it's also mana ramp.
Whoops.
It's a colorless card.
Oh,
it's also a tribal. You're getting everything's a cleric, so you're getting 1/1 for everything, and you're getting
notably
a mana.
The value of Patchwork Banner goes up the more creatures you have. So this is best in a deck where you've got like a bunch of 1-cost clerics. And it's like turn 1 you play 1, turn 2 you play 2, and then turn 3 you play Patchwork Banner and add 3 power to the battlefield.
Yes, very much so.
So it would be best if we go really wide if we want to do that one.
Right. So, so I'll yield to the group. Is there a certain way that you would recommend for us progressing forward? We're about an hour into the live stream already. Time flies when you have fun, right? What is your take? What is your recommendation?
I think the easiest one to build around will be for sure gaining 1 life at a time. Trying to build a tempo deck or a sacrifice deck takes a little bit too much thinking.
Okay, all right. So Rooker made the suggestion, hey, like when you have 3 different win cons, the complexity of piloting the deck properly and efficiently also increases. And so sometimes if you pick 1 or 2 engines, especially to newer players, you have less possibility of mistake. Like if you're just playing the cards, they almost work themselves. Versus some decks, you have to have more situational awareness to make sure that you're playing that mechanic at the right time with the right card, holding back some cards, playing certain cards, and the complexity of how to drive that deck increases for some synergies. Would that be a fair description, Rooker?
Yeah, it gets. I would especially say tempo is an extremely hard deck to play well, especially white-based tempo decks.
So we'll keep it simple for Mel. Simple mind, right? And in terms of in simple mind in terms of building a deck, right? Sometimes it allows a person to have peace of mind knowing that, hey, I have all the right pieces. I don't have to worry about the timing as much. I'm playing on the mana curve. I'm playing with a smooth curve that is not gonna cause me to stall out, and there's almost like a peace of mind that comes with a more simplistic 1 or 2 win con deck. You just don't have the stress of like piloting this complex car, and so yeah, let's do that then based on your recommendation.
Okay.
So that being said, now the decision that Rooker is going to have is, okay, he introduced some cards, but now since we settled on just a regular life gain and the synergy that comes with that, now if we're not going to focus on the sack, we have to go back into our deck build and say, okay, well, this doesn't fit our synergy anymore. Let's sub this out for an alternate card, right? That would be your next step, or am I maybe missing a step?
Yep,
at this
that's
point?
100% what I do.
Okay.
Cut a bunch of I add everything to the deck and then cut half of it.
Yes. Now here's the logic, and this is also something that I've done when I build my simple decks is load up everything on the right, your right margin. That's your pool of cards you can play with. And we're not even going to be talking about like side decks. We're just playing best of one type deck. But you load in everything. I might use it. I know I'm going to use it. And then if you go over that 60, guess what? Then all you got to do is look through your list and say, oh, I'm going to cut that. Does that really fit? No, that really doesn't fit in. And then you start cutting, right? But if you have a card in your main left margin area, and then you're like, oh, what was that card that I saw that I think I might have used? And then you got to remember and scroll back through finding that card. Always when you deck build in Arena, you load everything to the right, even if you go over 60, and then you cut it down to size later. It's an efficiency strategy. So carry on. Now we need to start cutting the graveyards. You're going to have to help me with the cards. I don't have them all memorized.
Yep. All right, so let's scroll up to the
Yep.
top of our deck list.
Right.
Okay. So if we're doing life gain, those top cards all look good. Luminarch Aspirant. So we're gonna have a lot of cards that whenever we gain life, put +1/+1 counters on them.
Right.
Luminarch Aspirant's gonna be outclassed by those. We're already gonna be getting so many +1/+1 counters. It's not gonna be good for us. Let's cut that.
So this is a matter of you might have put something into a deck build, and then you're like, oh, you know what? If I have this card side by side with this other card is hands down better. So then you forfeit using the lesser card, unless a person has a really small collection, where you're like, I don't have a lot of cards. I just need enough cards to build a deck. Then you might use inferior. You would kind of consider them inferior to other cards you already have. But if you have a large enough collection, which you get just by playing the game, you then have the luxury of saying, okay, side by side, is this card better? Yes, this one is better. And then you just forfeit the inferior card, which is what he just suggested.
Priest of the Forgotten Gods. That's just not going to be good.
Okay.
We're not going to have... The biggest issue I've had with these sorts of decks is it dies a single target removal.
Yes.
Your opponent you'll make a big creature and then they'll just go, okay, murder.
Right. Which means, depending on if you're playing against, say, like a red burn deck, like if you were playing Lige, he had a deck stacked with a lot of burn. Depending on where you are on your mana curve, right, they actually could burn you out early match, and you'd be lacking on board presence. And so Rooker is mentioning there's this place where, like, depending on the deck that you're playing against, you have to prepare for the possibility that you might struggle early in the game to establish board presence. Would that be an accurate statement?
Yes.
Very good.
And it's really, and as well, we're not going to have as much card advantage as other things. So even in the late game, we're going to need to make sure every creature we have counts. So yeah, that one is a card that we have if we already have a ton of clerics. But if we already have a ton of clerics, I think we're already winning. Okay. Anointed Peacekeeper, Elite Spellbinder. They're not really progressing our game plan that much.
Okay.
They're really good if we're trying to tempo our opponent out, but they're not really fitting this build. They're just an easy cut. Same with Sanguine Evangelist. The way that we're built, we're not really going to be able to go wide enough. That card cares about us going wide.
Right.
The Elite Spellbinder as well, for the tempo reason. Okay, now for a questionable one. And we'll have to think on this one. Actually, wait. Zoraline, I don't think fits in this deck because we just don't have enough bats.
Okay. Now, here's the thing that he's talking about here is some of the flavor text here is based on bat tribal. And so you don't gain the benefit unless you have other bats in your deck design. So even though we're running like a cleric tribal, the flavor text that references bats isn't benefiting us because
actually, I think we actually have enough bats.
Oh, you think so? Oh, okay. Well, maybe okay. Well, then I'll be silent. I don't have.
Never mind.
I don't know the exact count. I suppose we could check I think it tells us, doesn't it tell us? Yeah, we have 5 of them. So he's right. There is enough to like do some stuff with.
Okay, we can actually try to make bats work here.
Okay,
This
all
could be
right.
interesting.
Okay.
If that's the case, I think we're already trying to do too much. And so I think we're going to have to cut things like veto. Veto probably gets cut
Okay, Vito.
right under Taborax. And now the big question, do we keep Aura? That's the big question I'm thinking about. I think maybe we keep it as like a 2 of in the final build. Maybe.
Now, if you keep this card, if you're playing against a deck that's burning you out and they're burning your board presence, this is something that this could replenish. Because now, Lige, when we talk about board presence, for maybe the person who's coming in and they haven't really played Magic and they're just coming in like from Variety Play or something in TikTok, when we talk and we use the phrase board presence, in layman's term, just chill verbiage. What are we talking about when we're talking about board presence? I think Lige is
gone.
Lige is gone. He's done. Stepped out and got a snack. But basically, board presence is a representation of like how many permanents that you would have on your side of the field, especially like creatures. In some cases, enchantments, but we're not going to go really technical. And the physical representation of permanents on your opponents. And so, if you have, one creature out, and then your opponent, mid game has 4 creatures out, depending on the size of the creature, of course, is a combination or a consideration. You would say, oh, we have a 4-to-1 board, and my opponent has board advantage, right? Or in my case, I'd have board disadvantage. So sometimes, depending on if you're playing like a wide deck opponent, you need to keep in your mind, like, how well can I keep board presence at a stable level? Because if you're playing against a wide deck that has the ability of ramping that damage, you're going to run out of like blockers, and then they're just going to swing through with that instant buffs. And so board presence, like what Rooker mentioned, that's something that that could be a consideration. And so now all of a sudden the Skyclave, you might want to have that as a possibility to kind of restore some of your board. But that being said, carry on, Rooker.
Yeah, so I'm thinking the way that our deck is built, we're trying to get a big board presence as fast as possible.
Right.
So I do like Aura, but it's expensive. 4 mana, that's like the top of our curve. So I think we'd run 2 of it and call that good. 2 copies of Aura.
Okay, very good. Oh, yep, we can do that. Well, hold on a second. Let's go one more.
I guess it's making you craft.
Let's craft them. I think we can craft them. Let's craft them. Let's craft one more. Okay, that'll give us 2.
Okay, so we've got our top end Aura.
Now, just that as a side, I'm gonna sidetrack just for a moment. Like, you kind of see like what I don't spend much when it comes to wild cards, but that's how many wild cards I have sitting around. Look at the mythic and rare. I should be ashamed of myself.
That's pretty good.
All right, but carry on. Yes, I can afford to build.
Angel of Destiny.
Okay.
Similarly, is just going to be too expensive, right. So we're just going to cut it.
Okay.
Even though it's a cool card.
And that's because if we're trying to get as many of these clerics to proc this the engine, man, we don't want to be waiting for T5 because we're not running any green, so we really don't have any way of like mana ramping to get him out and play sooner. So if you're playing like a green rampy deck where, okay, I have like some creature that you can tap and get like an extra mana to use it on something else, you can get mana from other sources. But since we're not splashing in green and green's not like the dual color, man, this is really late. So you want to have the majority of your stuff running T1, T2, T3, and like he said, T4 is at the point where, man, that's kind of our late game option. So a T5, I agree, that would be a cut. And when let me clarify. When I say T1, T2, I'm talking turn 1, turn 2, turn 3, so forth. Carry on.
All right. Aura, by the way, should be at 2. I'm thinking.
Okay, very good. Or let's go to.
Like, it's good, but we probably don't want to draw multiples of it because it'll just be sitting in our hand for too long. I like all 4 Cleric of Life spawns. That's great. Creature's solid, but not maybe that good. Okay, we need ways to consistently gain life. So I'm thinking Soul Warden. Looking at the Soul Warden that we have already in the deck,
Yep.
we probably want 4 of it.
Okay.
That's going to be like our main life gain engine.
Okay.
It's a common as well, so nice and easy.
All right. If my game will do it. Okay. Well, you know what? Okay. Yeah. Let's get. Okay. There we go. We're good. We're good. We're good.
Okay. So we now have Soul Warden and Cleric of Life spawned, both as like ways to consistently gain life. Do we want one more of that effect in our deck? Trying to think. Probably. Maybe like. Sorry, I gotta think. So we want to consistently draw some way to gain life, like really easily. So I think we want about 10 copies of that effect in our deck. We've got 4 copies from Cleric, 4 from Soul Warden. Let's look up Lunarch Veteran. That's a cheap card that can do it.
Okay.
Lunarch Veteran. 2 copies of that would be great.
Okay, let's do 2 copies.
And then let's cut Guide of Souls. It's a rare. It's going to be... And it's not probably even going to be as good as those cards.
Okay, hold on a second. Guide of Souls, we're making a cut. Okay.
Okay, so we've got lots of ways to gain life at this point. I think Essence Channeler and Voice of the Blessed are some of the best payoffs for gaining life.
Okay.
They both get +1/+1 counters and then have extra benefits whenever we gain life. So if possible, having 4 of each would be really good.
Okay, he's like, all right, Mal, you need to start spending. This is when you need to start spending.
All right.
No, it's all good. It's all good.
You can actually click the 4th diamond.
Oh, the 4th one. Okay, see, you can tell I'm a new player, right? I'm still a new
Them
player.
all.
Okay, all right. And then which one? What was the other one?
Same with Voice of the Blessed. Right underneath it. Voice of the
Voice
Blessed.
Okay, let's do that. All right. Now I definitely got to build that into other decks now. I'm very good. Very good.
Okay.
It's all good. You know, the funny thing, I'm gonna just step out of the live stream just for a second. I remember when we played that tournament back in the day, and the deck that Lige had me send as a troll from one of my random opponents.
Oh yeah.
I remember the other player. He's like, man, I didn't have none of those. I had to burn wild cards, and I ain't never gonna use those cards again. And I'm like, I told Lige, I said that Muppet had to burn some serious wild cards, and it was like cards he'd even never use again. It was just a funny memory from that tournament. If you want to see what we're talking about, we're reminiscing on an old tournament. You can actually go to my YouTube and see the entire tournament from my perspective. But that was also a wonderful opportunity, and I'm thankful that I got invited to that tournament, that artisan tournament, as a matter of fact. And on that tournament, I actually was talking about Extra Life and promoting it that time too as well. And so I was thankful for the opportunity to be invited to that event. But anyhow, I was reminiscing on an old story. And if you want to see what I was talking about, or actually hear the audio from that Discord and people laughing and the humor of it, you can go to my YouTube and see the entire tournament on YouTube. So anyhow, back to what we were talking about.
For sure. It is good though. So if we're going to do bat at all, I'm thinking the Sanguine Soothsayer and the Starscape Cleric. Because we want to just have as many bats as possible, we'd want to have 4 copies of each.
Okay.
I'm trying to see if we'll like run out of space in the deck, but I think it should be good.
Okay.
Starscape Cleric, you'll notice, also has Offspring, which is like extra mana you can pay when you cast it. So even if we do have a game where it goes long, this card, we call it like flood out protection, because if you
The Soothsayer
draw
as
way
well?
too many
You
land.
wanted 4 copies of this one as well?
Yeah, we're gonna try it. 4 of those. That's a really good early aggressive card. It has life link, so whenever it attacks, it'll gain us a life.
I think
Okay.
I think Rooker and Lige are like in a Discord, like on the side, and Lige is like, "Run up the bill, man, run up the bill." Like, haven't spent his wild cards. No, I'm good. I'm good. I'm just joking. All right, carry on.
Okay. Now, how many? Oh, wow, we still have a lot of space in the deck. Okay. We do need some amount of removal. We're going to be building big creatures, but if our opponent makes a bunch of tiny creatures, they can just block them forever.
Yes, that
With
is
that
true.
being said, I think Darkstar Banisher should also be a 4 of. Which you already have. Oh, there we
Yep,
go.
I
Yeah.
do. What
4
is
more
that?
of that.
Okay, yep. Where are we? That's this. Yep, 4 of these. Okay.
And now the last one, as far as pricey cards are going. Oh, wait, we still need to add 2 to the deck.
Yep, there we go.
All right, Zoraline is really strong. But as a legendary creature, we only can have 1 out at a time. So I'm thinking that's only going to be a 2 or 3 of.
Okay. Now, Rooker brought up an interesting point that some people don't consider when you do builds, especially that are more creature heavy. What you have to factor in is if you run a 4 set of something that is a legendary creature, guess what? You can only play 1 at a time. If you have 1 in the battlefield and 1 in your hand, if you were to cast that from your hand into the battlefield, it would shred that first copy, and it would still go into summoning sickness, provided it didn't have haste or anything like that. And then you would lose that other one. It would replace the original. So some people, when they build, they're like, ooh, legendary creature, maybe 2 or 3, because you don't. When you talk deck design and deck building, you have what they call card draw probabilities, the statistical chance of drawing a card by a certain turn. If you count cards or do anything with cards, you have to factor in card draw probabilities. But you don't want to be drawing this card as much as you would other cards because it's legendary. So by us dropping that count or keeping it beneath 4 and maybe going 2, you're ensuring that you're drawing this less frequently, and thus you're not going to have that disadvantage of, oh, I got another one of these in my hand. What am I going to do? Right? So
Yeah.
he's factoring in, Rooker's factoring in card draw probability. That's what he calls it.
And importantly, our deck has no card selection. We have no way to actually choose what cards we're drawing. If you're playing a blue deck, there's a lot more ways to choose what cards you draw. So in that sort of deck, I'd be fine running 4 copies of a legendary creature if it's really important to the game plan. Because
right,
if I see another one on top of the deck, I can say, I'm just going to put that on the bottom of my deck and draw a different card.
If it's central to the win con, yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Wallsman, one of the viewers, he made the point, Arena gives you the choice of what you want to shred. So I'm thinking he's saying that in the context of a legendary creature.
Yeah.
Now,
so for example,
yep.
If you had a Taborax down on the battlefield, you could play a second one and sacrifice the new one to pump up the original.
Interesting. Okay, I was mistaken that the original always deceases, but that's apparently not the case. Interesting. So would you say there's ever a scenario, and I don't want to step too much outside of our deck build, but would you say there's any situations where you would want a 4 set of a legendary? It's not your win con, but it has a mechanic that's so unique and giving so much value that you want to actually smoke other copies of it. And if so, could you give an example?
Yes, there is a card. So first of all, one reason that you might want to do that is it's a card that has built-in protection for that. For example, Joda, even though this is a card you'd probably build around, it says whenever you cast a legendary spell, Joda the Unifier, it says whenever you cast a legendary spell flip cards off the top of your deck until you find another legendary spell and cast that one too. So Joda is a card you'd be totally fine to run 4 of, because even if you already have one on the battlefield, you can just play the other one and flip cards off the top of your deck to still find something.
Okay.
Similarly, like if you have a legendary creature that says that you like tap it to discard a card and then draw a card, like Kitsa. Kitsa's a new card, it's blue. But it's a otter legendary.
Oh yeah.
AITSA.
Oh, I'm sorry. ITESA? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Oh,
Kitsa. So like kit as in the kit of a fox,
oh, my
and
bad.
then SA.
I'm sorry.
And then
it's
click
blue. It's
So-
blue. Yeah, sorry about that. I'm sorry.
So Kitsa, you'll see, says draw a card, then discard a card. You can tap it to do that. I was building a deck based around wizards, and I had 4 copies of this, because even if I drew another one, I could just use the first Kitsa to discard it and replace it with something else. That's like another good example of one that does that. Or, there's one more good example. There's a legendary creature. I cannot remember what it was. But the main thing you want from the legendary creature is it does something really good when it dies. So you would run 4 copies of it, so you'd play the first one, and the second one lets you kill your own creature.
Interesting.
In fact, there was a whole deck built around that, where they had this like super convoluted combo that involved making one of their creatures a copy of their legendary creature, so they could sacrifice it, and then use that creature dying to make another copy of it, and then they'd like constantly be sacrificing a bunch of copies of this legendary creature. It was a very crazy deck and super fun to watch.
Very good. I apologize my lack of response. I was telling Lige in the background in Discord, like, hey, once we get to the point where we finish this deck, maybe if he can, we'll have him queue up one of his decks, and then we'll have you give commentary on, like, hey, this is the deck, but then this is the things you want to remember or factor in when you're driving it. When you're when people talk about how to play the deck, they often use the phrase, this is how you pilot the deck, or a person, you're flying a jet, and then the pilot is moving that plane to where you want to go. And so maybe once we get finished, Lige can have something queued up, and then we can hear commentary from Rooker saying, okay, this is what you want to factor in, and so forth. All right, carry on. Sorry about that.
Okay. So I think we want 2 Zora lines, the way that we're currently going. And now at this point, after we have both of those added to the deck, I'm noticing our deck is not actually that broken, what we're doing. Weren't we supposed to have
Removals.
Oh, yikes. We do not have 4 copies of a lot of cards that I thought we had 4 copies of.
Oh, okay. Let's look. Let's look at it again.
Okay. Angel of Unity, let's cut it. Like,
Okay.
we just have other better things to be doing.
Right.
It's a good
Okay.
card, but
Not for this level. Okay, very good.
same with Speaker of the Heavens. Doesn't quite fit our game plan.
Okay.
So now we want 4 Essence Channelers, 4 Voice of the Blessed. Oh, yikes, we don't have 4 of any of those. No wonder. I'm like, why do we still have so much space in the deck?
Okay. All right. We got 4 of the channelers. Sorry.
4
And then-
voices.
Yeah. Voices. Sorry about that.
And at this point, I think we're running out of space. We could add the 4 Starscapes. Okay.
Okay. Now we're there. Okay.
Let's cut the Inquisitor Captain, just because we've got a very focused game plan at this point.
Okay. Very good. Now,
Probably,
go ahead. Carry on.
Oh. I think we even cut to Borax, despite it being card advantage. We've already got Zoraline and Aura as our card advantage, and I think both of those are probably going to be better. By the way,
Okay.
2 Zoralines.
Oh, my bad. I think I had one. Yeah.
Okay. Now, at this point, I'm looking at the deck and I'm noticing a couple things. First, we have no interaction. Second, our curve is very 2-drop heavy. Like, if you look at that, almost everything we have costs 2.
Right. So when he's talking about that, just as a quick point, mana curve is what are the chances that you have the mana to put in play and have the card at that price point that can be played. So for example, if I had a really high average cost in my deck, it would take me more turns to get those lands in place. Obviously excluding any ramp from like green or some other mechanic. And thus the the win con would be slower rolling into play. And so with this being like really heavy at the T2 slot, we actually could consider, and obviously Rooker will give us guidance and his thoughts on the matter, but we could actually probably cut lands at 24.
We probably will cut 2. With this sort of curve, I think we can cut 2, but we should probably try and smooth out the curve a little bit if possible before we make any decisions on lands.
Now, at this point in time, what is your consideration for, okay, I got a lot of this low mana curve, but is there a point where I need more bombs? So when I say bombs, you're like, oh Lord, help us. Mal is going off the edge. No, I'm talking about the bread, right? So the bread formula is that formula that talks about the bomb being the cards that take over the game, removal being, destroy a creature, destroy enchantment, evasion that's like flying or menace, aggro being like your haste or your flash cards, dredge being like, okay, we gotta have something to fill. Now, this being a really fine-tuned deck, we've like literally eliminated dredge for all intents and purposes. So is there a point where we're leaning on the win con to be the bomb, or is there ever a point where you build a deck like this or a similar deck and you're like, ooh, I just need something a little bit higher up in the mana curve to combat that opponent who was able to establish mid-range game?
So here's my thoughts, especially for this deck. When you're trying to be aggressive, do not add bombs to your deck, add flood out protection.
Okay.
So if you look at Zoraline,
okay,
the way that Zoraline works, it's a 3 mana card, but whenever it enters or attacks, you can pay 2 mana and 2 life to bring something back from your graveyard. So even though Zoraline says it costs 3 mana, if you have a game that's going long, this is also a 5 mana card. Because you play it and then immediately pay 2.
Very good. And another thing to remember is because of some of the cards that are already in our deck, we've almost completely negated that cost 2 life. Like, who cares about paying 2 life if you're getting life from other places, right?
Yeah.
And then you're ramping your life. And thus, like, if you have to pay 2 life to accomplish something, like in flavor text, well, who cares about it? You're getting life out of your ears, right? So essentially you pay that white-black cost, right? But you've negated taking that 2 life hit that if you had non-life link or non-life gain, it would be like, ooh, that kind of stung. I got to be careful, like in another turn or two. That's a non-issue with a deck like this.
Other cards. So at this point, I think we have too many creatures because we're not doing anything broken enough.
Mm-hmm.
And currently our only interaction is Darkstar Banisher.
Okay.
So what I'm thinking is we cut 2 Sanguine Soothsayers. I'm so sorry you already crafted them.
That's all right. Life goes on. You're not going to bank on my account. It's not going to happen. You're fine.
And now we just need either. I'm actually thinking we might want some 1-drops or 3-drops. Like just anything to smooth out the curves so that we don't always have to be paying an even amount of mana every turn.
Right.
Like we want on the 3rd turn to be able to spend all 3 mana, which we can actually accomplish by having more 1-drops or 3-drops.
Now, if we go and we follow with what Rooker was saying, and we pick a T3 creature, that probably won't even bring our average up. and if it does, maybe like to 2.3. And so we're still going to be running 22 lands. So
Probably.
get Noonan, what's happening? Oh, I have to stop just for a second. Noonan, what level are you in Fortnite? Lige was thinking you'd be like level 200 by now. But anyhow, back to where you're talking about the mana curve. I think that like if we went with T3, he's level 11. Come on, man, you got to step up your game. This is already day 1 of the new season. You should be like at least level 50 in Fortnite by now. So anywho, Rooker's like, what are you talking about? So the T3 slot, that might give us maybe something a bit tankier if we're facing like a deck that has like, you know, some 2 damage burn or something like that. If you get into that T3 slot, maybe you have like a 3 life card or something like that. Do you think that if we went into the T3 slot that it would maybe face that mid-range opponent a little bit better? Or is we still need to focus on that T1 just to like keep it really, really low cost?
I think we will not beat a strong mid-range deck by trying to outvalue them by having bigger cards. I think the way that we would beat one of those decks is just barely eke over the finish line right as they're getting online.
North Carolina, what's happening? Hope you're having a good time there in North Carolina.
So I think we get a mixture of one cost cards and 3 cost cards. My thought for 1 cost cards is the best removal spell in the entire format, Fatal Push. You don't own any Fatal Pushes? Buddy, you have not been playing long enough.
I have not been living. I'll tell you what, when I came back, the last set that I had played when I came back was Brothers War.
Okay.
He's like,
Fatal Pushes.
You needed to tell me that information before. No, I wanted it to be a surprise. It would be a good point of humor. Okay, so you want like 2 copies of this? What do you want?
Probably 2.
Okay, 2.
So another tip for people new to deck building. You want your deck to be super consistent. So you want to have lots of 4-ofs.
Yes.
Like 4 copies of a card. But when it comes to your interaction with your opponent, you want to diversify. So even though Fatal Push is incredibly good, we're not going to have enough space for 4 copies of it and answers to other issues. So we're just going to go with 2.
Right, and it might be, and again, Rooker will elaborate more on this, but it might be like, hey, this destroys something that's 2 mana or less, but what about a creature that's 3 and above? So maybe he's going to suggest something that's going to deal with like bigger. This is a removal that can deal with like bigger creatures. Is that like your thoughts or like?
Yes.
Okay.
Like it's going to be extremely rare that Fatal Push doesn't kill something every game.
Right.
But it won't be too uncommon that if you had 2 of them, only one of them would be useful.
Nice.
And so we will want something that will answer something bigger.
Mm-hmm.
And right now I'm thinking we want more interaction. Like if we're trying to answer bigger things, it's probably going to be a bigger spell. So let's go to our filters and look at 3 cost instants and sorceries.
Okay, very good. I'm just cycling a video loop. I'll be finished in 1 second. Okay.
Oh.
All right. We're back here. All right. I'm doing some stuff in the background. My live streaming skills are being pushed. Okay, so we want a 3 cost.
3 drop.
3 drop with instants and sorceries. And what we got? Let's see what we got.
An additional cost to cast a spell, sacrifice a permanent. Probably not the best. Divine Purge would hurt ourselves, so that's a great card. None of these are looking too good. Uh-oh. Love some of these cards, just not for
not for this particular deck.
Not what we need.
Now, since we're talking about removal, the thing to remember is that it's not to say it's always the case, but black tends to have a nice, pleasant selection of removal cards. So do you want me to scroll to the black section and see if there's something spicy there, and then maybe come back?
We're about to reach it naturally, and the reason I want white is black cannot answer artifacts and enchantments.
Good
So,
point.
So like having the ability to like exile an enchantment would be pretty good, but I'm not seeing it.
That would be. And we've cycled past the whites.
Yeah, there's Vanish into Eternity. Exile target creature for 3 mana, or if you spend 6 mana, exile. Oh wait, no, exile. Oh, never mind. That's 6 mana to exile a creature. That's horribly overcosted. Never mind. I thought it was this costs 3 more to cast if it doesn't target a creature.
Yeah, Walsman, are you saying you agree with splitting up the removal, 2 being low, 2 being higher up, dealing with like bigger? I think he's agreeing with your assessment of not doing 4 fatal pushes, but splitting 4 card slots, 2 to deal with smaller creatures, 2 to deal with larger.
Absolutely. It's such a good...
he's saying, my bad, I misunderstood. He's actually saying card name. Let's actually see what
split up.
Split
yes,
up.
Split up could work here. This is normally when you're playing an aggressive deck, you do not want to play a Wrath. But this is a clever one. Since our creatures are going to be massive and or flying, we can attack with all of our creatures. They'll all be tapped, and then we can cast this to wipe our opponent's board.
Provided we...
This might be worth...
Interesting. Okay.
I would say only one. If we play any, I say we only play one, because it'd be really awkward to have multiple in our hand in some matchups.
Is there ever going to be any situations where you're not swinging? Or are you having to balance the times when you're holding back for blocks versus always swinging for that aggro?
Against a deck that goes wider than you, you'll be hanging back a little bit. And also there are some decks that only play like 1 or 2 creatures across the whole game, which is why I think only 1.
Okay.
But I think this is an interesting spell. It's a really interesting spell. Good suggestion. I did not catch their name.
Walsman, was there anything else about this card as to why you suggested it, or did Rooker verbalize it pretty well? Let's see if Walsman, he always has suggestions. He pulls cards out that I've never heard of. He's like, look up this, and I'm like, oh, that's a really good card. Oh yeah, that's really good. He said it's a cheap mass removal. Yes, that is absolutely true. A 3 cost, 2 white, 1 wild, and it has the opportunity of removing or destroying all tapped. Yeah, absolutely. It's a very cheap mass removal. So his recommendation was based on the cost of doing like a wipe.
Yeah, it's a very efficient card, and it is the only Wrath I would ever play in a deck where we're trying to kill our opponent quickly.
Sure.
Okay. I kind of like Blot Out as a 1-of.
You said blocked out?
It's on the screen. It's on the screen right now.
Bad. Okay, blocked out. Okay, hold on here. Blot Out. Yes, my bad.
So that will answer the biggest creature that your opponent has. It also hits planeswalkers. Right now, most of our removal is focused on creatures, so this helps us a little bit against control to have a little bit non-creature removal.
Right.
And in that same vein, let's actually look at 1-cost instants and sorceries in white that refer to artifacts and enchantments.
Okay, this
Destroy target enchantment, Light of Hope, Fragmentize. Fragment Reality.
Now, I'm gonna stop and very briefly mention a concept that Rooker has pointed out numerous times, and there's a topic that's surfaces, and it's value, like putting two cards side by side and judging the weight and value of two cards side by side. Now, I'll just very quickly point out, for example, Light of Hope. At least it seems that this would be a superior card because it gives you flexibility of 2 additional flavor texts, whereas Demystify, it's the same 1 cost, it's an instant, but all it does is destroy enchantments, whereas Hope of Life, at least in Historic, gives you 2 additional flexibility. And so this is the superior card in that scenario. So sometimes you got to make calls on your deck, and you're like, ooh, is this the best scenario? And you have to weigh 2 cards against each other, which is what we've been doing. And that topic, that theme has popped up numerous times, and that's just a perfect example, really close, where sometimes we have a card, but we may not have considered another one that's superior, that makes it superior. It accomplishes the same thing, and then in addition, it does something else even better. Sorry about that. Carry on.
And the biggest mistake I think newer players make when they're doing this as well is overly trying to make their interaction fit with their deck. So, for example, a lot of people would like Light of Hope because it says gain 4 life, and they're like, I'm a life gain deck. But honestly, you just want flexibility in the way that you interact with your opponent. We're not running that much interaction, so we need to make sure it's always very effective. So I think Fragment Reality is going to be the best option we have to answer an enchantment.
And I wasn't giving an example for this particular deck. I was just saying this is a very easy visual example of how maybe it's a creature, and the creature is very similar. It has a very similar attack and defense value, but there's one that has significantly better flavor text, and the other creature is better. I just was giving like a visual example since it was sitting right next to each other. So Fragment Reality, very good.
Yeah, that's a really good one and it's worth crafting that one because you will use it in just about any good white deck. Okay. And so now we need to decide on lands.
Ah, yes, the discussion that was coming up. So, here's the question: is when the deck builder, and this is actually, this part of Arena is called the deck builder, I believe, and it kind of defaults like, oh, you picked green and blue, and then it's going to load in the stock lands, right? And so one thing that we have to factor in is we're not going to be running, 24 plain lands. We have to figure out what's better options at those land slots. So we're already going to remove down 2, right? So that gets us down to 60. But running 11 might not be the best option of each color. Maybe we adjust the color based on when you go into deck builder. It's very similar, but there might be another consideration for flavor text.
It does adjust the numbers based on how much of each color you have. If you have barely any white and almost all black, it will put more swamps.
Right.
Oh, it's still on 1 cost.
My bad. It's still on 1 cost, isn't it? Sorry about that. Let's do. No. Let me get land. There we go. Sorry about that. Now this is a card that I run in a fair amount of my decks, and the reason being, I'm not saying this is the one that we're going to pick today, but one of the cards that I use, because it's technically, oh man, I got like 3 planes, but I really need to get that swamp going. Like in another deck, I'm talking like maybe you need to have a stronger blend and you're getting flooded out in a certain color. It doesn't come in slow, it's not coming in tapped, but in that moment when you're about ready to put it into play, you have the choice, hey, do I want it to be a swamp or a plane? But Rooker may have something in mind that he's going to lead us to.
Honestly, I agree with that assessment. Let's put 4 in there. It's almost strictly better than just a plains or a swamp.
Yes, and the reason why it's superior, again, is, it's still just a plain or just a swamp, but it's not a plain or a swamp. It's the option of either in that moment, which means you can rebalance your cards in play. So if you have one plane in the battlefield in play, you can say, oh, I want to bring in that swamp. So now I'm blending my colors better. So if you have these cards, I would suggest running them because that flexibility will save you from time to time. It's very, yes, Wall's been commented there. It's versatility, or it's versatile. Yeah.
Now, notably, if you scroll up just a little bit to the Essence Channeler in our deck and you read it, you'll notice it says, as long as you've lost life this turn, it has Flying and Vigilance.
Right.
With that in mind, we should probably add some lands to our deck that we can damage ourselves with.
Interesting.
So I think we want
Interesting.
4 copies of Caves of Koilos.
Caves of. Wow, caves. All right, let's look up caves.
And with that card, that's also optional because it's a generic mana unless you want it to be the specific type of mana. So you have the
Interesting.
ability to proc
So you're
that.
recommending 4 copies. Okay, let's get 4 copies.
And it being able to damage us is almost an upside.
But in this scenario, if you were running this type of deck, it would be a tremendous disadvantage to you unless you had some benefit that you get from self-damaging, from self-harm, right?
You're making me want to build a Death's Shadow deck.
Oh my goodness. That might maybe here's the deal is that like it's kind of like fishing. I like fished out and said, Rooker, hey, do you want to come out and do a live stream? And he's like, yeah. But who knows? I can't guarantee anything, but maybe we'll see more Rooker. Maybe sometime in the future. Maybe we'll see if he enjoys it. Maybe we'll see him again sometime in the future. Okay, so we need to get down to 22, right? So we need to shred down. Now, if you had a card, not that much though. If you had one color really surfacing, like say it was, say Plains was in the 30s and swamps were in the teens, as Rooker mentioned, you'd want to make sure that the deck builder like subbed out that ratio so that you're pulling in proportion to what you have in that deck. Now, here's something that someone mentioned, and Rooker, I'm curious to see if you agree with it or not. I had a friend said that when you build mid-range decks, so now we're talking a little bit higher mana curve, right? A stretched out mana curve, where maybe you have, later game creatures or spells that require 2 or 3 of a single color. Is that an instance where you would give an extra oomph to a certain color of land based on your end game cards requiring 2, or not 2, but like 3, or in some cases 4 or more of a certain color? Is there any instances where you would override that ratio that the deck builder does and say, ooh, that card that I have, I need a little bit more of this one color, and then you kind of give it a little more oomph? And if so, what would be the cutoff where you'd make that choice? Or is that really rare circumstance?
It depends on like what kind of end game threat it is. Mm-hmm. If I'm playing control, even if the card costs 6 mana, I'm going to be casting it like when I have 10 mana because the game has gone on so long. Right. So I wouldn't care that much about the mana cost because I've got like 3 of each color.
Sure.
At least. I think the most common place where I ignore the ratio that the deck builder wants to give me is if I have one color that helps me find other colors. For example, there's a card called Malevolent Rumble, a really strong green card.
Okay.
That says look at the top 4 cards of your deck.
Right.
And put a permanent card from among them into your hand, right, and put the rest into your graveyard. And then it makes a little token that you can sacrifice for mana.
Huh.
But I really like whenever I'm playing a deck with that card, I add a little bit more green than I need. Mm-hmm. Because then if I don't get the colors I need, but I have green, I can cast Malevolent Rumble and dig to find the colors that I do need. So if you have a color that's like your card draw color, or if you're in green and it gives you creatures that ramp,
Right.
that color you might want to lean into just a little bit more. Or if I'm building a black deck with Shambling Ghast and Deadly Dispute,
Right.
both of which make treasures, which you can sacrifice for any mana, any color. Once again, I'd lean a little bit more into the black, because even if I don't draw my other colors, having access to black mana gives me access to the other colors.
Right. Well, that's really good insight for that kind of decision making. And one thing to remember about your deck is, it may seem like lands are like, oh, it's just a land, it's not really that big of a deal. But if you have the wrong ratios, you're setting yourself up for frustration, because you're going to need to have access to the right number of cards to play your hands that you're going to be drawing and not get flooded out or get starved out. Now, I know, like, in this, for the sake of humor, I know that Lige has an opinion on Arena flooding out players or starving them out. And Lige, just for a moment of time, give the people just a quick rundown of when someone says, "Oh, I got flooded out" or "I got starved out." What do they mean by that?
Simple terms is you should spend money in the store on Magic, and you'll never have that happen to you.
Oh, that's wonderful. Oh my goodness. Oh, okay. Yeah. So flooding out is I'm getting more cards than I can put into play. I'm when I should be drawing creatures, I'm getting more lands than I ever want. Starved out is, well, goodness, I need a land card sometime this game. I don't have enough to run the engine that I have, and it's basically getting the right number of lands out at the right time so you can play the cards when they're meant to be played. And that's basically the logic, is you don't want to get flooded out and have too many. You don't want to get starved out and have too few. You want the number of lands to give you those options at the right time, so your deck just keeps on moving and doesn't stall out. So,
as I think we should probably take this deck for its maiden voyage, but I will make one last suggestion.
Right.
Let's add 2 Godless Shrines.
Okay.
It's right there on the screen already.
Oh, all right, Godless Shrines. Okay, yep. Oh, my bad. Oh, back it up.
2 of those, and then we can cut another Plains and Swamp and call it good.
Cut a Plains. Oh, and a Swamp.
Yep.
Good. Yep. Okay, very good.
There we go.
And viewer, I just want to give like a public thanks. I think that Rooker may have had the thought that I was still maintaining the versed knowledge in some of the card base, but I appreciate his patience on basically holding my hand through this deck build, and he's given tremendous insight already. And so I just want to like be on record as saying thank you for your tremendous patience for a new player like me.
It is my favorite thing to do. Like you said, everybody you like to teach. I as well like to teach.
Yeah. And I think that's important, because one of the things that the game doesn't need is a little kiddo, or it doesn't have to be a kiddo, but maybe someone who's just wanting to have some type of networking game where they just get out of the house and they go to a local game store and they play. The last thing you need to do is have someone that's new to the game go into Arena, go into a game shop, and no one takes the time to like talk to them, to be kind to them, to explain some of these intricate details, and then they walk away and say, "Man, I thought that it would be more fun than it was, and it just wasn't great." And then they leave frustrated. And so I think Rooker is onto a very key thing for the health of the game, because everybody was a new player once, right? And if we take the time to talk about how to do that, guess what? When this goes on YouTube, there's gonna be people that stumble on this video, and they're gonna be like, "Oh, explains how to mentally walk through building a deck." And so we're really really appreciative of Rooker taking his time and giving us this walkthrough. But we are at the 60 slot. We did adjust lands, and we've gone through some of the details on that. I think maybe Lige has something lurking in the background for us. But was there other adjustments? Anything else that we need to ponder, Rooker, on this deck? Or is just now it's time to roll it out of the garage?
I will say 2 small notes. First, you should drag Cleric of Life's Bond up to the deck box so that it's the picture for the deck, because I feel like that's the
Okay,
core.
I'm sorry, which one again?
Cleric of Life's Bond, the white-black one.
This one.
There we go.
All right. Because that's
and then the other thing I would say, we only have 6 cards in the entire deck that actually care about clerics. So if we were to spend, honestly, sometimes I spend like 3 hours working on a single deck list, and I have a lot of experience with the cards, but I'm sitting there just like running through these numbers and going, actually, maybe I should change this. If I were to keep working on this deck for forever, I'm pretty sure that the final version would have less clerics in it and more just generically good cards. Because even though we are a cleric deck, there's not much in our deck that actually cares about the clerics.
Right. Now, here's something that I sometimes do post-build, is once you roll the car out of the garage and you run it through some games, and as Rooker mentioned, that process is different for every person. It could be like hours for one person. It could be 20 games for another person. But what'll happen is, especially if it's a homebrew deck versus a net deck, what'll happen is as you play this deck, you're going to be like, you know what? I think that this would be a healthy adjustment to improve this. And what'll happen is, just like fine-tuning a car, you're going to run this deck. You're going to find where it stalls, if it does. You're going to find where its strong points are, its weak points are. And then as the game evolves and more cards come into play, there might be something in the future that's like, oh, you know what? This would be a better option. And what'll happen is, as you become more familiar with the deck, piloting that deck, the imagery of us driving that jet, flying that jet, as you play that deck, you're going to have the experience give you more comfort on piloting it, and it's also going to give you insight for adjustments. And so that's something that, not on this live stream, but after you build that deck, you need to run it, and then you're going to say, oh yeah, I think this is something I want to adjust, this is something I want to remove, this is something I want to sub in, and you'll get more familiar with it. And that's one of the beauties of Magic the Gathering is when you really begin to adopt a deck, and it's like, this, I really like this deck. And that comes not just by buying a button. Like Lige said, it's not just a matter of buying a pack and then you're guaranteed to win. It's learning how to play that deck. It's learning how to adjust it, how to fine tune it, and that's one of the beauties of this game. So, but anyhow, carry on. Sorry about that.
I'm actually going to second you just with a tiny insight. Recently, there was a big tournament, worldwide tournament for Magic, and there was a guy who showed up, and he's like, I'm pretty sure I did not bring the best deck, but I like this deck, and I'm good at playing it. And he ended up making it to top 8.
Nice. Very nice.
Just get good at what you're good at.
Right. And I will say this, kind of drifting off just a tad, but I think I personally believe that every Magic player has a personality, and they gravitate towards certain game mechanics, a certain style. Like when Lige introduced himself this at the beginning of the live stream, he said, I play red, burn baby burn, right? And it's his style, right? And so another thing to remember is that as you build decks, sure, you could go online and find what won that tournament, but it's also important that you play decks and build decks that resonate with who you are, decks that you enjoy, that you like. This is how I am in real life. This is my style. And you'll find that as you play the game of Magic, you're going to gravitate towards certain game mechanics, and they're just going to resonate. You're just going to enjoy them. Don't force yourself into a corner and say, I know this is a good deck, I'm going to build it just because it's good, when you might enjoy like another deck. And so be willing to try new things, homebrew. You could certainly take NetDeck and then revise it, or take the idea and build something, but also don't be afraid of trying new things, because if you respect the fact that every player is different and there are things that you might like, you're going to find decks that you thoroughly enjoy, and they might not be the best deck, but you're still going to have a blast playing them. And so that's just something like kind of outside of the game, and more like just from a psychology perspective, you should have fun playing Magic, and you're going to find decks that reflect what you like. And so sorry about that. Carry on, Rooker. You got it. What's next? What do we got next?
I'm saying, do you want to take it for a test drive now?
Yes, absolutely. Now, in the name of our deck, we do have to make one adjustment. Although I did pick World Championship because of something we discussed earlier, we do need to do some adjustment. There's one last candle on the cake, you could say, and I need to scroll down. Let me scroll down. Let me keep on scrolling down. I got a lot of these card sleeves. Give me a moment. We need to actually bring on the Extra Life. This whole live stream is to bring awareness to Extra Life, and to all of the children hospitals that are a blessing and help many children and families that are in dire need. And so, while Rooker's been discussing the deck, I've been cycling the video loop, and I would encourage you, when you got a moment of time, especially as you have a moment, go on and check out their website. If the Lord puts it on your heart, or if you have the means of helping people in need, do consider this charity. It truly does help families. Walsman said my wife works for the Children's Hospital at West WVU, and so there are people who are medical professionals, and they just pour their lives into helping people. And Extra Life is partnered with the children's hospitals. They do a tremendous work. Wizards of the Coast has helped with this charity for years, and Extra Life has raised over $12 million. Right now, as of today, Wizards of the Coast has already raised over $750,000 for Extra Life, and Magic the Gathering has raised over $750,000. So between the parent company and Magic the Gathering, their child division, they've already raised over $1.5 million alone, with the help of all those that are in that fundraising group. And so we just want to bring awareness and give honor to those that are helping so many families in need. They truly are the heroes in this world. But that being said, let's test drive this. Lige, you got something lurking in the background for us?
Yeah, I got you.
You do? Okay. All right, I'm checking real quick. All right, everything's still running. I got a little message on TikTok, but we're gonna just plow through that, and I think we're gonna be fine. Okay, so that's good. All right, so Lige.
You want full back burner?
All right, so Rooker, do you want him to like bring the smoke?
Yeah.
Or do you
This is definitely not a fine-tuned deck, but let's see what it does.
Minor budget decks. There's nothing. I don't have.
Okay, then we're fine.
Okay, all right. So I'm just waiting on Lige to accept.
We'll just do this one.
Okay, all right.
We'll do this one. This one is the pretty budget.
We got Rooker Tech. All right, here we go. Rooker Tech. And he's been kind enough to walk us through and guide us through the process, the mental process of building a deck through homebrew. And this might be something that maybe has been in tournaments or variants, but it's new to me, and so it's homebrew to me. So what are some considerations here? We got 2 lands, we got a T2, we got a T4, a T2, T2, and a T2. From a mana perspective, we got some options right out of the box. Is this a keep or a mulligan right here?
Here's my thoughts. We've got Sanguine Soothsayer is really good early game because it's going to shuffle cards into our deck, which is best done on turn 2. We've also got a fair amount of ways to gain life, and knowing our opponent, that may be good. So even though we don't have a turn 1 play, I think this is a good keep.
Absolutely. And I agree with that. Even not looking at the flavor text, the fact that we have those land options, that's really good. We might have to wait just an extra second or 2 for the Voice of the Blessed because it's running 2 white, but that land is going to come to us, and we have enough other options in other places. Like Rooker had said, it definitely is a keep. Isn't that a cool card sleeve? If you like buying cosmetic stuff, go out and buy that Extra Life sleeve that's currently in the shop. All right, so Rooker, is it a black because of the Soothsayer? We're running Swamp right out of the box.
I would say white.
Really?
Because regardless of what we draw next, we could play Voice of the Blessed next turn if for some reason we suddenly wanted to. And we can still play the Sanguine Soothsayer turn 2.
Right. Now
or just keep your options open.
Now, viewers, that is the difference between an inexperienced player like me and an experienced one like Rooker. I had not considered the possibility that I might draw playing next turn and could play that Voice of the Blessed and have that extra option. I would have backed myself into the corner playing that Swamp. In this case, it's the only Swamp. This is the play.
The odds are we would never want to play the Voice of the Blessed on turn 2 when we have other options, but...
Right.
Alright, let's drop a Soothsayer.
Alright, Soothsayer.
I mean, that's going to be a really annoying creature if it attacks more than once.
And while we're waiting, I'm going to quick cycle one more time on TikTok and give you a little bit of information about Extra Life. If you're just joining the live stream, I want to remind you that this live stream is focusing and promoting on Extra Life, which is contributing to children's hospitals. And that being said, I will post a link between turns when I can. All right, so
considering that we're streaming for Extra Life, it maybe was a good idea that we didn't build a Death's Shadow deck.
Yes, that would be very true. That is very true. Rooker's like that would have been kind of morbid for us to do. Lifelink, I think, definitely was the play for us. Definitely so.
So here, even though that creature can block, we want to get an attack trigger off of this Soothsayer. I'd say it's worth the 1 damage, especially where we gain so much life, to just not block and then attack and let him block us.
Right. Because remember, Lige is burning through, and then next turn we swing over the top because we're a flyer.
Well, but he can block. He's got a flyer.
Oh, yes, you're right. You're right. I'm bad. Okay, I didn't notice that vigilance. I was like looking at something else. Sorry about that.
Okay. Here. Now, the general rule is if you don't have anything that affects your combat, attack first, because then your opponent has less information and it's harder for them to decide whether to block or not.
Okay.
So before you even play a land, just attack them.
Okay. That's interesting. I didn't know that particular thing. All right, so
it does depend. If your opponent knows your deck list and you're like, oh, I've got a trick that I could play that costs 3 mana, it might be best to play the land beforehand because now your opponent's more scared of it.
Sure.
But yeah. All right, here I'm thinking we get down the other Soothsayer because this one can't be blocked anymore.
Okay.
But first, oh darn.
Oh, sorry about that.
But first, we want the Soul Warden because we'll gain a life when it comes into play, and we have an extra mana sitting around anyways.
Oh, sorry about that. Do you want me to bring the caves out?
We lost an entire point of life.
Oh my goodness! What are we ever gonna do? Do you want me to bring the caves out?
I mean, yeah, there's no reason not to.
There's no reason not to. Okay. Yeah. So that was a sequence thing, right? All right, and then bring out the Soul Warden.
Yep. So now. Oh.
And then just auto pay it. Yeah.
Yeah. It double checks that you're okay with casting it because it will cost a life when you're using the caves.
Oh, you know what? Let me bring that offline here and bring this off. Okay, there we go. Having to do these. Go ahead.
The nice thing about this next turn is pretty much no matter what Lige does, we're going to gain some life. And we can also play Voice of the Blessed next turn. And I think that's what we do.
Right, and the thing about a life gain or a life link deck is that unless you're dealing with like a poison opponent, a life gain buys you time. And some people think of it as that you're buying time, thus giving you more options as the game progresses.
Yeah. All right, what are your thoughts? Should we block this?
Oh, you know what? We really don't have to because we can swing over the top next time.
Yeah. If we lose either of these creatures, like both those creatures will gain us more life than they will block.
Right. And this is more valuable to us as an engine piece than us trading and getting like board presence.
Absolutely. So yeah, no blocks. And now you'll sort of see the patchwork banner that Lige played. You can see the issue that I have with it, where if you don't have a very big board, it's literally just a +1/+1 counter.
Right. This rewards a wide board. The more creatures, the more value. The less creatures, the less value. And then if you don't have like a high quantity board presence, like it doesn't give you the value of having just a different card that gives you different value, a higher value.
Yeah. There's just better options.
Yes, that is true.
Although considering that Lige is playing a rabbit deck, I expect it will not be the case for long that his board will stay small.
That is correct. That is correct.
Sequencing. What do we want to sequence here? What order do we want to play our cards?
Last time we swung in, right? And then we brought in creatures later, right? So.
But Voice of the Blessed cares about us gaining life. And us attacking will gain us life. So we want to play before combat this turn.
Okay, alright.
And plus our opponent can't block, so there's not any like decision.
Notice Lige just tapped out on the top left.
Actually, he does have 1 mana because of the patchwork banner, but probably has nothing to mess with us.
That is true. And then the caves, bring the caves out, right?
Yep. And then we can play the cleric if we want. Yeah, because that also cares about us gaining life.
Alright. We're getting to the point where either Lige is going to start breaking our brain or Rooker's deck is going to start breaking our brain. Now the decks are going to start shining, right? And so, we go over the top with the 2-1 and call it a day, right?
Yeah. My thoughts, we should have attacked with the Soul Warden. I don't think our opponent has any way to block it. And there's no chance we ever block with it because it's just such an important card.
So you're like, yeah, that was a misplay on my bad. I'm not entirely focused on. I'm kind of also like fiddling with some stuff in the background too. So my bad. My brain is like also like allocating resources to like a future thing that I got to do. Okay, so all right. So we're waiting on Lige, and I'm also doing a transition. Remember a Rooker at the beginning, I couldn't get my Stream Deck to do like automated stuff, so I'm manually switching scenes and stuff like that in the background. It's just
Yeah.
It's
No
it's
worries.
it's a part of the game, but I think at the end we'll have a nice YouTube presence with this video.
And all I'm happy if you make any sort of misplays because it's just more commentary.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, okay, all right. So he's swinging in with a 2/2, huh?
And here's the exact scenario that I was kind of mentioning. Even though our Soul Warden is back to block, we don't want to block. Like, Soul Warden will gain more life by
Yes.
sticking around than it will by preventing damage.
Absolutely. So in this case, the value that it gives us as the engine piece is going to give us more long-term value. You always have to weigh what is it going to do for me now versus what will it do if it lives on for 3, 4, 5 more turns. And sometimes your engine pieces are going to give you more value, like Rooker had said, and it's just like, okay, eat the damage because the value you're going to get from the other play is the better option. Yeah, definitely so. Oops, sorry, no blocks.
Well, you're probably wondering why we're taking so long.
Yeah.
Here, I think
yeah,
we
guys,
draw
come
four
on,
off.
man.
It's like, sorry, Mal is just
Oh,
not
wait.
running fast.
We attack first.
Yeah.
We attack first.
Okay.
There's no value to playing our creatures first.
Okay.
Assuming we play Aura.
Now, since he has a 3/4, we want to go over the top and leave the Warden, right?
Yeah, so our Warden's not attacking or blocking. It's just sort of sitting around.
Correct. But in this case, if we did attack, they'd smoke us with 3/4. So, right?
Yeah. It'd be for free. They'd kill it for free.
Yeah. So
There is some value to attacking with it in that it's a good bluff. If our opponent didn't know our deck, they'd be like, there's some sort of trick going on, and they might not block.
Right. But when your opponent
yeah,
can hear like your commentary in real time, it
does make it a little bit hard.
That's
No, I don't
another
know what's
thing
going on.
lurking in the background. He's like, I'm not listening. My ears are plugged, right? Okay. So now at the end of the turn,
Aura.
Aura. Okay.
So
now,
in this case, there's something that we call mana efficiency. Just if you can use all of your mana, it's probably better than using part of it.
unless you're playing like blue and you need to be able to cast some of that mana on your opponent's turn, right? Or
True.
another
But in
stage.
this case, we're playing on our own turn.
Yes.
We aren't playing communism.
Yes, you are
our
correct.
turn.
Yeah, correct. But that would be like one situation where you might like hold, or if you're doing like a buff trick where maybe your opponent has a higher powered creature, and if they swing through and you can block, but then you also have a buff card, you get that kill. There are, or you want to go on the attack and you want to get that kill, trample
And
kill.
this reminds me of something. Actually, this is related to mana efficiency still. If you are going to play stuff at instant speed, no blocks. This is an easy no block. But if you're ever going to be playing on your opponent's turn, you want to have a mixture of spells that are reactive and proactive. And what I mean by that is, well, first of all, so should we play our creatures before or after combat?
Let's do the combat. I was just
No.
Oh no! Wait, hold on a second here. All right, what? Let me click back.
We gain life with the Sanguine Soothsayer, and these creatures care about us gaining life.
Oh yes, you're right about that. Yeah.
We do want to play before this time. But you want to have reactive cards and proactive cards. The reason being, if you have a reactive card, like a counter spell, your opponent, let's say that they just don't play anything on their turn. You want to have a way to still spend your mana on that turn to be efficient. So it's really good to have like a card that's like, if they do something, I'll respond like this. If they do nothing, I can just further my own game plan.
Now,
and that's something that I think a lot of people don't appreciate is the mixture of reactive and proactive stuff. You have to have both if you're going to be trying to play on your opponent's turn.
Right. Now, in this, we do have a 4-2 board advantage, right?
Yeah.
And not like a power advantage, but just like a card presence advantage. But in this case, would there be any consideration with, if we didn't know what Lige had or the opponent, would we hold that card back just as like a board wipe, or would we go gas to the pedal?
I think we go gas. I think we would just go gas.
Okay.
The biggest way, our opponent is playing rabbits. They are going wide, which means we want to just make sure we have as many ways to kill our opponent next turn as possible. We just want.
Say it was the same color, but it wasn't a rabbits deck. Same thought. Not obviously that's difficult to answer. Not knowing what the other scenario would be. But
the other thing to point out is they have a Voice of the Blessed under that Coyote. So even if they did do a Wrath, we would get a Voice of the Blessed after the Wrath.
Ah, that's a good point. Very good. Yeah, that's a good point. And then just swing with everything. Everything's tapped out.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Okay, Lige actually had a trick, and it was face up. Oh, never mind. He had 2 tricks.
Oh.
Okay, he actually had 2 mana because of the Patchwork Banner, and he had Carrot Cake. Carrot Cake, if you read it, he can sacrifice it, and when you sacrifice it, he makes a rabbit. So he could have blocked our Soul Warden there, even if he had nothing.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
He had a sneaky, but he had an even better trick, so yikes.
So is there another type of deck that you'd like to try against this? To give like a different feel for driving it?
Yeah, sure. I could play against you after this. I can pull up an artisan control list that I've been working on.
Okay, yeah. I'll be a sacrificial lamb. Yeah.
Let me just see if I can answer something like that. Yeah, it's a very fun deck. Fun for me.
Fun for you. Not fun for us. That's okay though. We're having a good time. Now, I also want to bring to your attention, Rooker, I know that I'd said like, hey, I don't want to take all of your time, but we have crossed the 2.5 hour mark, so I don't know,
Whoa.
if you're, I don't know. I know time flies when you have fun. I don't know. I just want to be respectful of your schedule. I don't want to let you to miss real life obligations or anything like that. Just letting you, just giving you a time.
My wife overheard that, and she is giving me a thumbs up to, hey, keep going if you want. So I'm gonna hang around.
Oh, okay.
Now, one last thing we could do here.
Right.
We can tap our land for mana, even though we don't need the mana, just to deal damage to ourselves. Oh shoot! All right. So press control.
Oh no, okay, my bad. I should have kept that so I could have tapped it. My bad. That was my bad.
Yeah. No, don't worry. You should have been able to do it. It's just that Arena says you don't have anything to cast, so move forward.
Oh, okay.
So attack with all of your flyers, everything except Soul Warden, and then press control. Press control before you click 3 attackers.
Okay.
Okay, and then you click that, and now it says, not yet. Now that we're in full control, it lets us take actions that Arena thinks we wouldn't normally want to do, and here we can deal damage to ourselves.
Oh, all right. Now this is where Rooker is just showing off at this point.
Yeah, so deal damage to ourselves with the Caves of Koilos. Arena normally wouldn't let you do this, black or white. Either one. Donk, and now it has flying.
Oh,
because we have now lost life this turn. And he says whenever we've lost...
Did you know that? Like, when you go into an attack, you can hold the control and then you go into, like, a custom mode? I didn't know that.
I didn't know that was the button, but that's how you... when you're playing in a game, that's how you trick the opponent to think you have some kind of, like, instant card. If you have nothing, if you have a land in your inventory, you just put on all their steps, so you're bluffing. Because usually people don't use that ability, and Rooker knows about that, but it's kind of
yeah. If you press control, it will it'll pretend like you have something to do, even if Arena thinks you don't.
Interesting.
And there's like some really useful things you can do with it. Like you can play a spell and then respond to your own spell if you go into full control, which has very niche applications, one of which actually shows up in the control deck that I'm about to face you with.
Noonan came into chat a while ago and he's like, "Hey Mal, did you hire a pro here?" And absolutely, absolutely, he is definitely the pro. I am the Muppet.
I am not a pro, but I do win tournaments.
That's good. That's good.
Just small time tournaments.
Yeah. All right.
I almost won 17 cents at a tournament one time.
Oh,
so
man.
I almost am a pro.
That's bank right there, making money. He's over there making money. The chance of making money. Oh, now you know what, Lige? As a matter of fact, while we're between lobby and I'm cycling through the video, tell them about what you found at that one store with that buddy you found. It was that $5 pack of cards. I don't know. He might have stepped away. I'm not sure.
Oh, sorry, my mic was muted.
Oh, no, that's fine.
There's a store called Half Price Books, and me and some guy I met at Walmart. We were looking for cards, right? I like saw on like Reddit that sometimes this place has cards. We go there, they have like bulk packs that you can buy for like $5. And most people when they see that stuff, they're like whatever. It's bulk. Why am I buying bulk? We went. I bought one for like the laughs. I bought like a Pokemon pack, and I was getting base set cards from 1999. And then I went back in there and bought Magic cards. I was like, yeah. So I got a bunch of old cards.
That's sick.
On the low.
And if you're on TikTok, I'm going to post the Extra Life website that you can go on and look at your convenience. Wallsman said that the best pull he had was a multi-vault for $2, a $2 clearance pack. I don't know what a multi-vault is, but he said he got it for a $2 clearance pack.
Nice. All right, for this next round where I'm playing against Malvaro, Mal, did you see the challenge?
I am.
Or are you still cycling?
Yep. No. Yep. There we are. And I'm loading up right now. Yep. There we are. Yep. Sorry about that.
So for all the people who want to see brewing happen, this is a deck that I myself have brewed, and it is a 0 rare deck. So if you ever play this game, this deck that I'm going to be playing is effectively free to make. And so I'm going to try and show off the power of 0 rare decks. We'll see if I actually win. It'd be kind of nice to show it off, but it'd also be nice if the clerics win, because I mean, this is an Extra Life stream. So I guess I'm happy either way.
All right, we got some land. We got T1, T2, T2, T3, and a T2. We got some flexibility. We're gonna keep it. We're gonna run it.
All right. My nightmare scenario here is you playing a Soul Warden. Thank goodness. Okay.
Lige.
Oh, I'm not saying anything. I didn't read the flavor text of the Soul Warden. I thought it was only the your guys's. So I spawned all those rabbits in and it just procced all your stuff. I was like, man,
dude, Soul Warden is ridiculous. Let's hope. Shoot. Okay. Wait, is this my turn too? Did I goof? Oh my gosh, I goofed.
I goof all the time. Don't feel bad.
No, I did not goof. We're good. Okay, never mind. Sorry. I thought for a second I'd already played a land that turn, and I just played a card that said like, oh, you can play a card from exile. And I put a land there, and I'm like, wait, did I already play one? Okay. This lines up well. 2 damage to everything.
Ooh. There we go. Oh, there we go. All right. That could be something that could help us in the future.
Interesting. I actually kind of approve of playing that out, even though it's supposed to be kind of a removal spell. Because I'm not really playing any creatures.
Okay. Gain life. That's not going to help us yet. That's not going to help us yet. I mean, this is like evasive, or you could consider it evasive. We're going to run evasive. But if we bring this Muppet out, then the next time we bring a cleric out, we can proc the gain 1, which gives us options for the future.
Bold of you to assume there will be a next turn.
Ooh.
I'm just kidding. There's no
Cook him.
chance.
Cook him. Prank him, John.
I don't know. There might not be a next turn for me. I don't know. Who knows?
Oh, that's such a creature. Okay.
Now Lige is like, burn, baby, burn.
Don't worry, Lige. If you're a fan of burning things, you will like the end of this game.
He's gonna be like, hey, can you send me that deck list after this game? Like, I really liked what I saw. You know, the one thing I remember about, hold on a second here. Interesting. I don't have.
Oh my gosh, this is evil. I'm such a bad person. Oh my god.
Wait, what's so evil that you're doing?
I'm just destroying people in ranked. I have actually spent money on arena for the first time ever to prove a point, and it is worked in my favor. And now I don't feel a lick of bad at all.
Are you becoming pay to win?
No, I'm never putting money into this game again.
You're just testing a theory.
Oh yes.
So there is the reason this theory has come about is because there was an actual players were able to find the data that is stored about them, and there is a single bit in the data that checks whether they have ever made a purchase on the game.
Oh,
I
thank
knew it.
goodness!
People
Thank
are like-
goodness! I'm safe. I'm safe. I actually have spent money on this game.
And it still
I'm
was
safe.
too long
I'm
ago.
safe. Woohoo.
There's all sorts of conspiracy theories about why that thing is there, and I honestly think it's not really for any super crazy, spooky, malicious reason, but people love to freak out about it.
I will. I will, and I always will.
Now, viewers, the curious thing about what's happening to me now is that I'm getting all these pieces out, but the irony is that until I pulled this life bond, I did not have a way of proccing that life. So I would just have to rely on just straight damage from these creatures. And you know, obviously the Soothsayer getting the, you know, some kind of damage hit. So it's good that we got the life bond.
Sorry about that.
No, it's all good. No, it's all
Right
good.
after you went on a spiel about gaining life.
In the corporate realm, this would be called stress testing. We're just doing a stress test. Lost Youth, what's happening? Hope you're having a great night.
I really need a good draw, and I am not getting it. Shoot. Holy cow, I cannot find anything.
Alright, well, he's in his turn. I'm going to quick give a cycle of extra life. Just going to let this run through, and then we'll go back to our turn. That is wild. but there's been Extra Life has raised over $120 million, not including this particular fundraising cycle. What a tremendous effort to help families in dire need. All right, and yeah, that'll do a little something. Let's do this. Oh, he's like, nope, let's not do that. But he is tapped out. Interesting. Okay.
I have treasures, so I still have 4
Oh
mana.
yeah, my bad. He does. Yeah,
Temporary.
you're right. He does. My bad. Still would play it though.
I am on the ropes though.
But that
Down
tells you that the deck was a good build, even if I can pilot it out of the box. That's good.
Oh wait, do I win? Okay, Lige, take a look at this. Dual Strike. When I cast my next instant or sorcery spell, I copy it. Dual Strike. When I cast my next instant or sorcery spell, copy it. Gandalf's Sanction. Deal X damage to target creature, and excess damage is dealt to its controller.
Nice.
Oh, you're cooked. Dang, that's
well,
insane.
Rooker has claimed victory.
That's
What
40 damage.
What a tremendous show there. That was very good. Very good. So obviously you had to focus on driving your deck, but with what you remember of what I was playing, did I have any horrible misplays that a person should remember? Like, I know I should have gotten the Soul Warden out sooner, but otherwise, was it like pretty much that was like the best you could have gotten with the options you had?
You played very well. That was maybe a little bit cruel of me because I knew it would be a decent matchup.
That's all good.
In general, the life gain decks that are built around making a couple creatures really big, they rely on you having the side of your deck that gains life and the side of your deck that cares about gaining life.
Right.
And so when you're playing against a deck that has a lot of interaction, they don't actually have to stop everything you play. They just have to stop one half of your deck. You know,
Right.
everything that gains life. In that case.
Right.
And so I'm not a huge fan of the deck that we built in general, but I think it's about as good as it will get while still being a life gain deck. But yeah, I just do not like that weakness, and so I intentionally exploited it.
It's all good. Now I know that your wife gave the thumbs up, but I just wanted to give you like just a cue on our timer at 2 hours 45 minutes. 8:48. So we can do like a wrap up type thing at your leisure. You just tell me the word.
I'm down to wrap up.
Down to wrap up. Okay, so we're gonna wrap up. So that being said, we've had people coming and going. We've had actually some people that are right now just kind of chilling. I think we had someone just a moment ago in TikTok. But that being said, the whole live stream is not about us. You know, the true heroes here are the children's hospitals that are, you know, just pouring their expertise, their care into you know, children that are facing difficulties medically. You know, tremendous support to families that are just facing you know, challenging you know, circumstances. I know when I was on the website for Extra Life, I was really I guess inspired would be maybe the right word, but when I looked at their website, their theme, they have a theme which I haven't brought up yet this live stream, but their theme, their motto is change kids' health to change the future. And when we whether we help locally, you know, to charities locally, or, you know, go to the website. I posted again on Twitch and on TikTok. But when you like help kids, and it could be, in this case, we're raising money, helping to bring awareness, right, for kids children's hospitals, but there's other charities as well. But when you help change a kid's health and you improve their health, you improve what they're facing, maybe even to give comfort or to help them, uh, uh, it's changing the future, because for every kid that gets the care that they really needed, it's changing their future. And I like their motto: changing a kid's health is changing the future, because to that kid, that's everything. I remember, I'm going to tell a story as we wind this down, but I remember that a few years ago I was in Memphis visiting family, and I was in that particular weekend, my parents, my brother-in-law and sister were like, hey, St. Jude's is having like a just an afternoon where they're serving families. And St. Jude's is like out of Memphis area. And I remember, well, I've never worked, or I've never like helped that type of thing where, you're filling plates and cafe style, they got a plate, and they're just like going down the line and you're just filling food. And I still to the day remember when I like helped at St. Jude's. Those people had the most thankfulness. They're like, thank you so much. Thank you. That meant the world. Thank you. Our kid just got checked in, last night, and we didn't have time to put anything together for food. Thank you so much for serving. And that those people were so thankful. And although I gave a story about St. Jude's out of Memphis, all these families, anytime the charity goes to help their kid and their family, they are so appreciative. And so even though we're goofing off and having fun playing Magic Arena, we actually partnered with Magic Arena, and if you go online, you can check out their website. It's legit. They've been a charity for years and years and years, I believe since 2008. So go check them out. And again, I just wanted to draw attention to Extra Life and give them the honor that they're worthy of. I want to thank Rooker for coming out and basically giving us a clinic on how to build a rock star deck in Magic Arena. What fun. Thanks to Lige for stopping in, and he's been chiming in here and there. He again I appreciate him coming out and being a part of this event. But that being said, we're right there at the 2-hour 50 mark. It's just before 9 o'clock, and I know that I want to be respectful of Rooker's time and Lige's time. But again, what a fun event. And we played some Arena. We learned about Arena. I learned things I didn't know. And we got to bring awareness. I truly enjoyed this evening. And Rooker, thank you for being a part of it. We may never see the kid that gets the help down the road, but we're going to put this on YouTube, bring awareness. People will always be able to find this video. And, if even one person goes to the YouTube and finds it, and then they check out the website and they donate, like whatever family, whatever kid that ends up going to, those families are going to be appreciative. And so thank you so much for being a part of it. And, I'll hit you up in Discord. Maybe sometime down the road, we'll just, we'll get together and do something else Arena related. But again, thank you so much. And tell your wife thank you for the extra half hour of sharing your time with us. That is very appreciated. So I will, I suppose I'm going to start clicking buttons to end. But that being said, let's end TikTok first. TikTok, thanks much for stopping in. All the people that have stopped in and chat and said kind words and been a part of it. Yep, goodbye TikTok. And now I can actually mention Twitch without getting shadow banned. But anybody that stopped in on Twitch, thank you so much for stopping in. And again, Noonan, I think, stopped in and he's like, hey, you have a professional. You hired a professional. Yes, we had a professional in the house. we truly got a clinic from Rooker. And so, Twitch, have a great one, and be looking for a video to hit YouTube probably in the upcoming days. But thank you so much. All of you have a wonderful evening, and go check out Extra Life and help some family in need and some child. Thank you much. Peace.